Kanglin Realm, Shenguang Sect. The morning bell tolled continuously, awakening all the disciples, who then began their cultivation with vigor, inhaling and exhaling spiritual energy. The sounds of morning practice echoed throughout the sect, creating an atmosphere full of vitality. On Qi's peak, Qi Yuan lay on his bed. The morning bell was particularly jarring to his ears, so he covered them. His wooden cat puppet also opened its mouth at the appropriate time and made a sound. Wake up, wake up. With a wave of his hand, Qi Yuan stuffed a small piece of dried fish into the puppet's mouth, silencing it instantly. He changed his position and continued to sleep comfortably. As the saying goes, I alone sleep when the sun is high. Who is a god? I am a god. Who knows how much time had passed before Qi Yuan finally woke up. He took a deep breath. The air in this other world is quite sweet. Qi Yuan originally belonged to the vast populace of Blue Star. Half a year ago, he transmigrated to this world. Unlike his previous world, this one had extraordinary beings and cultivators. By chance, Qi Yuan had joined the Shenguang sect, becoming a disciple of Qi's peak, and its only disciple at that. After washing up and getting dressed, Qi Yuan left his courtyard. Yesterday, his master had sent a message with some instructions. Standing halfway up the mountain, Qi Yuan looked up towards the peak, which was towering and shrouded in immortal mist. He glanced at the palace within the clouds and muttered, another day of missing master. The clouds atop the peak rippled momentarily and then dispersed, as if nothing had happened. His master lived at the peak and had set a restriction that Qi Yuan was not allowed to ascend. Not seeing the clouds gather and scatter at the peak, Qi Yuan walked down Qi's peak. Today was the Shenguang sect's disciple recruitment ceremony. He was to represent Qi's peak, one of the 5 peaks of the sect, to recruit new disciples. Qi's peak had only one incompetent disciple, himself, and the sect had expressed their dissatisfaction. However, the peak master of Qi's peak was powerful, so those complaints could only be kept to themselves. Currently, even the peak master of Qi's peak had issues with Qi Yuan, which was why they planned to recruit more disciples. Qi Yuan slowly walked down the peak. When he reached halfway down, he stopped. There was a large tree here, several feet high. Looking down from above, one would see. This is a somewhat unusual blade of grass, but 3 days ago, Elder Kumu and the Empress of Dashang had a rendezvous here. Standing under the tree, Qi Yuan glanced at the fresh green grass on the ground, and a series of words appeared in his mind. He was taken aback. If he remembered correctly, a few days ago, when he came here, his eyes saw. This is an ordinary blade of grass, but 4 days ago, a wild dog urinated on it. This grass is quite interesting. After entering the Qi refining stage, Qi Yuan discovered that his eyes had a peculiar ability to see things others couldn't. For example, when he first looked at the cultivation technique given by his master, Qi's refining fire technique, he saw, this is a jade-level cultivation technique with 1,371 obvious flaws and numerous other minor flaws. Cultivating to the highest level will turn one into indescribable nourishment for an unknown being. At that time, Qi Yuan was stunned by these messages. He then checked other cultivation techniques and found similar issues. The highest level, nourishment, such distant concerns weren't something a small Qi refining cultivator like him should worry about. Of course, his cultivation was stuck at the Qi refining stage because, according to his eyes, breaking through would confirm his status as nourishment. Hence, Qi Yuan had been searching for a suitable cultivation technique ever since, diligently working towards that goal. In the sect's main hall, divine light scattered around. The white-haired Kong Fulu held a fly whisk and sat in the air. Behind him, the eldest disciples of the other peaks stood tall. Kong Fulu looked at the hundreds of newly admitted disciples below and showed a satisfied expression. However, recalling something, he asked slowly, hasn't anyone from Qi's peak arrived yet? Kong Shishong, you know the character of Qi's peak's eldest disciple, a man in a golden robe said softly. Hearing this, Kong Fulu fell silent. Just then, a voice announced, Qi's peak's eldest disciple Qi Yuan has arrived. With this announcement, Qi Yuan appeared in front of everyone, dressed in white, standing tall with a jade pendant at his waist, walking towards the light. Many disciples of the Shenguang sect, as well as the new entrants, looked at Qi Yuan with different expressions. Didn't expect senior brother Qi Yuan to come down the mountain. He looks even more handsome than the rumors. It's a pity that such a handsome person is. What about him? His behavior is strange, and he has mental issues. Really? Actually, not really. His way of cultivation is just different from others. He belongs to the obsessed, lineage. Cultivators of this lineage tend to have unique personalities. A mental case in the cultivation world. Better not provoke him. Although he seems a bit crazy, he's truly a genius with great insights into cultivation. Many senior brothers and sisters seek his advice on cultivation issues. The disciples below whispered among themselves, and many looked at Qi Yuan with peculiar eyes. In Kanglan realm, there are 3 types of people you shouldn't provoke. First, doctors, second, sword cultivators, and third, obsessed cultivators. Doctors possess medical skills to heal injuries. Cultivators may need them for treatment and quick recovery after duels, so it's best not to provoke them. Moreover, doctors are often skilled in making deadly poisons and pills, killing silently. Sword cultivators are known for their formidable combat skills and decisive killing, so it's best to avoid them. Obsessed cultivators are rather unusual. They are fixated on something to an extreme degree, whether it's a sword, a flower, or a person, leading to mental issues. Such cultivators are unpredictable. Who knows when a mental case might suddenly go crazy? Qi Yuan belonged to the obsessed lineage. Junior brother Qi Yuan, you are a bit late, Kong Fulu said softly. I went to bed too late yesterday, Qi Yuan yawned. The eldest disciples of the other peaks remained silent. Kong Fulu said, since everyone is here, let's begin recruiting disciples. The square was filled with new disciples who had just passed the entrance examination. The eldest disciples of each peak were responsible for selecting recruits for their respective peaks. Kong Fulu stepped forward and looked at the hundreds of new disciples below, speaking slowly. Shenguang sect is one of the 3 major cultivation sects of the Dasheng kingdom. Congratulations to all of you for passing the rigorous tests. From now on, you are disciples of Shenguang sect. Hearing this, the hundreds of young men and women below felt excited. After all, Shenguang sect was one of the most powerful cultivation sects in the Dasheng kingdom. Joining the sect meant becoming someone of high status. Kong Fulu was pleased with their reactions and continued. Shenguang sect has 5 peaks. You may choose one to join. This is the eldest disciple of the Divine Medicine Peak, Zhu Miao. This is the eldest disciple of the Myriad Laws Peak, Shu Yi. This is the eldest disciple of Qi's Peak, Qi Yuan. This is the eldest disciple of the Battle Peak, Madman. I am Kong Fulu, the last disciple of the 5 Lights Peak Master, the son-in-law of the Shenguang Sect Master, the Grand Master of the 5 Lights Sacred Law, and the founder of the Little Sun Technique, the chief eldest disciple of the 5 Lights Peak. As Kong Fulu spoke, 5-colored divine light appeared above his head, making him look extremely impressive and conspicuous. Yes, Kong Fulu, known as the most narcissistic figure of the 5 Lights Peak. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. The gaze of the many newcomers below shifted upon hearing Kong Fulu's introduction. Some felt admiration, others envy, while a few found it amusing. Kong Fulu continued, information about the 5 peaks of Shenguang sect has already been distributed to you all. Now, those who achieved grades of B or C in the assessment may begin choosing which peak they wish to join. The assessment results were divided into 3 grades, A, B, and C. Grade A was the best, B was next, and C was the worst. Therefore, those with grades B and C would choose their peaks first. Grade B qualified one as a formal disciple, while Grade C designated one as a servant disciple. Only those with Grade A could become true disciples. As for those with Grade A, each of them was considered a genius and needed special training. The main purpose of the senior disciples from each peak was to interact with and invite these few new disciples who received an A grade to join their peaks. Kong's senior brother is so impressive, joining 5 Light Peak is definitely worth it. I'd still choose 10,000 Laws Peak. In the path of cultivation, the Tao and its techniques are the key. My dream is to become a pharmacist, only pharmacists can save Dasheng. I will join Shenyao Peak. Battle Peak suits someone like me. It's a pity 7-color peak doesn't accept regular or servant disciples, otherwise I'd definitely choose it. I heard there's only one senior brother there. If I joined, I'd be the 2nd disciple, and the resources would be plentiful. In no time, those who had achieved grades B and C had chosen their respective peaks. Among them, 5 Light Peak had the most new members. Excluding 7-color peak, Shenyao Peak had the fewest because not everyone could become a pharmacist. If someone devoted decades to it and achieved nothing, they might be expelled. It was better to focus on cultivation. With everyone choosing their peaks, only the 7 who had achieved grade A remained, 4 males and 3 females. Fellow disciples, how should we choose from these 7? Kong Fulu asked, his eyes fixed on a young man in black, the one he was most interested in. The others, realizing something, remained silent. At this moment, Zhuge Miao, the senior disciple of Shen Yao Peak, suddenly said, "Before we came, Master instructed that 7-color peak should choose first this time." Upon hearing this, Kong Fulu sighed. He had intended to keep this information hidden, fearing that Qi Yuan would choose the one he favored. After all, 7-color peak only had one disciple, making it highly attractive to others. Joining other peaks meant competing with many disciples, but joining 7-color peak meant only one competitor. Moreover, that lone competitor seemed unreliable. The 7 new disciples looked at Qi Yuan with eyes full of hope, as if their faces bore the words, "Pick me." "Junior brother Qi Yuan, please select," Kong Fulu said. He deliberately didn't provide any information about the 7 new disciples, hoping to prevent Qi Yuan from choosing the most talented one, as that would be a significant loss for 5 Light Peak. Qi Yuan gazed at the 7, his expression calm. Since his master had sent him to select a disciple to boost 7-color peak's reputation, he had to choose wisely. As he looked at the 7, information began to appear in his mind. He first looked at the young man in black, Kong Fulu's favored genius. Kong Fulu's heart tightened. This black-clad youth possessed a rare light spiritual root, which was ideal for cultivating the 5 light sacred method and had the potential for great success. As Qi Yuan gazed at the youth, information entered his mind. Open black lens bracket. This is an ordinary youth, but he seems to have an ulterior motive for joining Shenguang sect. Close black lens bracket. Ulterior motive. Qi Yuan immediately dismissed him. Should he inform the sect about this information? No. 3 months ago, he had revealed that the sect leader of Shenguang sect was a spy from Demon Desire sect and was merely confined for a few days. Of course, this leniency was largely due to having a powerful master. In Qi Yuan's eyes, Shenguang sect was rife with problems. This world was full of issues, too. Since everything was problematic, it wasn't a big deal. He moved on to the next person, a girl in a pale yellow dress who looked innocent but had a hint of allure in her eyes. Open black lens bracket. This is an ordinary girl, but her special physique has caught the attention of the Black Rooster Old Demon, who sees her as a cauldron. She may bring trouble to Shenguang sect. Close black lens bracket. Exclude. Qi Yuan looked at the remaining candidates. Open black lens bracket. This is an ordinary youth with 2.5 years of cultivation experience, currently devoid of any cultivation. In his subconscious, a remnant soul sleeps. Before coming to Shenguang sect, he broke off his engagement with his fiancée. Close black lens bracket. A protagonist template. Stay away. In the shows Qi Yuan watched before crossing over, it was essential to stay away from the protagonist. Any character who was kind to the protagonist was often doomed. Such a person shouldn't be befriended. He looked at the remaining candidates. A 3-legged man. Exclude. A man with a female heart. Exclude. The world of Kanglin hasn't had an update. Exclude. A mental case. Too dangerous. Exclude. Qi Yuan ruled out 3 more candidates. He turned to the last girl. Open black lens bracket. This is an ordinary girl, but she seems to have some designs on the peak master of 7-color peak. Close black lens bracket. Qi Yuan's expression turned strange. A potential rival. Exclude. The girl, Zhongling Su, looked at Qi Yuan cautiously. Seeing Qi Yuan's expression hinting at rejection, her gaze turned determined. She bowed deeply to Qi Yuan and said, "Senior brother Qi Yuan, please give me a chance to join 7-color peak." Zhongling Su wasn't from Dashang but had come from the distant east. She was born into a noble family and held a high status. A sect like Shenguang was something she wouldn't have considered before. However, a month ago, her bloodline awakened, granting her a chance to use her family's supreme treasure, the Heaven and Earth Mirror. In the mirror, she glimpsed an apocalyptic scene. There was slaughter everywhere, with countless cultivators falling. Her father died in battle, and her mother bled in the palace. The land fractured, and the seas overturned. Only the small Shenguang sect seemed to harbor a high master who survived the catastrophe. The Heaven and Earth Mirror was a supreme treasure, and what she saw was a future vision or a warning from fate. Thus, she came to Shenguang sect. Before coming, she had investigated the sect thoroughly. It seemed ordinary, but the peak master of 7-color peak was mysterious and stronger than expected. Unfortunately, she couldn't convey the future she saw to anyone. If she revealed it, everyone would forget, including herself. So now, she bore a great responsibility. She couldn't bear to see her loved ones perish or the world fall apart. She had to join Seven Color Peak. Qi Yuan yawned, looking at Zhang Lingsu's determined gaze. She immediately said, "If I can join Seven Color Peak, I'm willing to serve as a slave or maid to help you, senior brother." Before coming to Shenguang sect, she had investigated the master and disciple of Seven Color Peak. The Peak Master was incredibly mysterious, like a dragon that rarely showed itself. The disciple had some talent but was of the obsessive lineage. Obsessive lineage cultivators had peculiar personalities and, due to their obsession, often neglected other matters, needing someone to assist and take care of them. Qi Yuan glanced at Zhang Lingsu and said, "All right." Relieved, Zhang Lingsu thought, for the sake of the world, what did a bit of personal sacrifice matter? Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Hearing Qi Yuan's agreement, Zhang Lingsu finally relaxed. "Greetings, senior brother." The remaining 6 individuals looked at Zhang Lingsu with a hint of envy. Kong Fulu let out a sigh of relief, pleased that Qi Yuan had not chosen the person he had his eye on. "Now that the selections are complete, farewell everyone," Qi Yuan said. The senior disciples from the other peaks nodded. Despite Qi Yuan's somewhat peculiar nature, he was still very polite. "Farewell, junior brother Qi Yuan. See you tonight, junior brother Qi Yuan." These people warmly greeted Qi Yuan, creating a congenial atmosphere. Where interests were not involved, they all showed Qi Yuan considerable respect. However, Zhu Miao from Shenyao Peak hesitated for a moment before speaking up. "Junior brother Qi Yuan, I have some questions about the formula for the nourishing essence pill. Could you spare some time to enlighten me? If you can help me, I am willing to offer a foundation establishment spiritual item in return." Zhu Miao's attitude was sincere. Earlier, he had reminded Qi Yuan to choose first to create an opportunity for this conversation. His words caused varied reactions among the present disciples of Shenguang sect. Qi Yuan looked at Zhu Miao and said, "I'll be walking my pet down the mountain this evening. I can take a look then." Hearing this, Zhu Miao felt a surge of joy. When Qi Yuan mentioned his pet, Shu Yi from 10,000 Laws Peak seemed to recall something, a smile appearing on her usually cold face. "Junior sister, let's go." Qi Yuan called out to Zhang Lingsu, and the two left the crowd. It was only then that Kong Fulu spoke. "Junior brother Zug, are you sure you want to consult Qi Yuan about the pill formula?" The others present also showed expressions of doubt or mild amusement. They didn't think Qi Yuan could actually help Zug Miao. Junior brother Qi Yuan is exceptionally talented, often having astonishing insights. He might have unique views on alchemy as well, Zug Miao replied. Half a month ago, he had encountered Qi Yuan walking his pet and discussed pill formulas with him. Unexpectedly, Qi Yuan's perspective provided significant help. If he's so amazing, why hasn't he gathered a single foundation establishment spiritual item? The senior brother of Battle Peak, known for his straightforwardness, said, "Junior brother Zug, you might end up wasting a foundation establishment item." Foundation establishment spiritual items were highly valuable, essential for cultivators at the peak of Qi refinement to break through to foundation establishment. The higher the quality of the spiritual item, the better the results for the cultivator in establishing their foundation. Now, except for Qi Yuan, the senior disciples of the 5 peaks had all achieved foundation establishment. In their view, Qi Yuan's inability to reach foundation establishment was likely due to offending his master and not being granted a foundation establishment spiritual item. Shu Yi from 10,000 Laws Peak said, "A genius one step, a madman the next." Qi Yuan might have unique insights. "Alright, let's discuss these matters later. We have important tasks to attend to," Kong Fulu said. The conversation ceased, and Kong Fulu turned to the remaining 5 individuals. "No need for further introductions for them. I am Kong Fulu of 5 Light Peak." The crowd rolled their eyes. This show-off was starting his self-promotion again. Following behind Qi Yuan, Zhang Lingsu was particularly well-behaved. She was very curious about 7 Color Peak, especially its master, Ruan Yishi. Even her family's influence couldn't uncover Ruan Yishi's true background. Of course, this was partly because her family was too far from Shenguang sect and time was too short. Nevertheless, it indicated that Ruan Yishi was anything but ordinary. Perhaps she was the reason Shenguang sect could survive the impending catastrophe. Zhang Lingsu had come a long way to Shenguang sect precisely because of Ruan Yishi. As for this senior brother, just a temporary senior brother. Senior brother, what kind of person is master? Zhang Lingsu asked cautiously, hoping to learn more about the peak master of 7-color peak through Qi Yuan. Master is an exquisitely beautiful person, Qi Yuan replied without hesitation. Zhang Lingsu was momentarily stunned. Who describes their master like that? Isn't that too disrespectful? It sounded like rebellion. However, remembering that Qi Yuan was a cultivator of the obsessive lineage, she accepted it. Cultivators of the obsessive lineage were peculiar, and their bluntness wasn't surprising. What else, besides being beautiful? Zhang Lingsu continued. Qi Yuan stopped and thought for a moment. Zhang Lingsu waited expectantly. Great figure. Zhang Lingsu regretted asking. She should have known better than to ask her senior brother. Cultivators of the obsessive lineage were just too outrageous. What was in his head? She decided not to ask any more. Since she had joined 7-color peak, she would soon meet the master herself. The two continued in silence, climbing towards 7-color peak. After about 2 hours, Qi Yuan stopped. This is my room. Qi Yuan pointed to a small courtyard. Zhang Lingsu didn't understand his meaning. She asked, where is master? Shouldn't I pay my respects to master? Qi Yuan looked up towards the peak. Master lives in the palace at the mountaintop. Zhang Lingsu looked up and saw a pavilion amidst the clouds, far superior to Qi Yuan's straw hut. Let's go pay respects to master now. Zhang Lingsu was eager. Qi Yuan shook his head, we can't. Master isn't here. No, there's a barrier from the mountainside to the mountaintop. We can't go up. What? Zhang Lingsu was confused. Master said, without reaching the core formation stage, we are not allowed to see her at the mountaintop. In the path of cultivation, there are 7 stages: Qi refining, foundation establishment, core formation, nascent soul, purple mansion, yin god, and yang god. Shenguang sect, one of the 3 major sects in Dashang, had over 1,000 disciples. Most of these disciples were in the Qi refining stage. Above Qi refining was foundation establishment. Foundation establishment cultivators were already mid-level fighters in a sect, holding significant positions such as deacons or even elders. Once one reached core formation, they became a high-level member of the sect. In Dashang, core formation cultivators could walk unchallenged unless they encountered nascent soul elders. As for higher stages like Yin God and Yang God, it was said there were none in Dashang. Zhang Lingsu was stunned. Core formation cultivators were strong wherever they went. Even with her family's resources, it would take at least 10 years to become a core formation cultivator. As for senior brother Qi Yuan, despite his moderate talent, she doubted he would ever reach core formation. Even if he did, the quality of his core might not be high. Senior brother, why did master set such a harsh requirement? Zhang Lingsu was puzzled. She didn't have that much time to wait. Qi Yuan looked at Zhang Lingsu and said slowly, master might be afraid of seeing me. Huh, Zhang Lingsu was taken aback, recalling Qi Yuan's previous comments about the master. Master probably just doesn't want to see you. I understand, senior brother. Zhang Lingsu found it hard to deal with cultivators of the obsessive lineage. She looked at Qi Yuan, senior brother, where will I stay? She couldn't go to the mountaintop, and there were no other houses here. There are straw and some wood in the courtyard. Hearing this, Zhang Lingsu felt a sense of foreboding. Was senior brother going to make her build a straw hut? She had never lived in one before. You can move them and build a straw hut for yourself. Qi Yuan yawned again. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Zhang Lingsu stood still, unable to believe her ears. She, a dignified young lady, build her own house. A straw house at that. Use her spells for this. She wanted to say something to Qi Yuan. Unfortunately, Qi Yuan didn't seem to notice her expression. He looked up at the clouds and said, you'd better hurry, it might rain tonight. Zhang Lingsu blinked, feeling a bit confused. Senior brother, what if I can't finish it? She wanted to send a message to her senior brother, help me. There's a bench in my room, Qi Yuan said. If you're worried about getting wet, you can borrow it to sleep on. After speaking, Qi Yuan walked into his straw house. Zhang Lingsu clenched her fists and watched her senior brother's back. She resigned herself to her fate. After all, she wasn't the type to force others to take pity on her. She would handle her own affairs. She followed Qi Yuan into the courtyard and began to gather straw and some wood to build her nest. Despite her frustration, Zhang Lingsu remembered her purpose for coming here. Her primary goal was to find that high person. Although the 7-color peak master, Ruan Yishi, was the most likely candidate. There could be others. Who knows, there might be a seal beneath the Shenguang sect, where a supreme power slumbers. As for Qi Yuan, she decided to treat him as an ordinary senior brother, neither getting too close nor deliberately distancing herself. Clouds gathered and dispersed as Zhang Lingsu diligently worked on her straw house. In the previously empty space, a straw house appeared. Although she had never built a house or lived in a straw house, she had practiced spells. She also had many treasures with her. When the house was unstable, she simply used a binding talisman to keep it from collapsing. After finishing the house, it was still early. Zhang Lingsu clapped her hands and looked at her house, feeling extremely satisfied. Senior brother. She went to Qi Yuan's house and called out. No matter what, she had joined 7-color peak, so she needed to keep up appearances. She needed to learn 7-color peak spells. Come in, Qi Yuan's voice came. Zhang Lingsu quickly entered. Upon entering, she saw Qi Yuan holding a square jade slip. She had seen this type of jade slip before. Senior brother, are you playing a game? Zhang Lingsu asked. The current cultivation world was no longer the dull, lifeless place it once was. Entertainment was plentiful, betting on alchemy, listening to songs in brothels, sword dances, and even games were abundant. The square jade slip in Qi Yuan's hand was clearly a game jade slip. These jade slips generally stored various types of games. Fighting, dungeon crawling, farming, all sorts. However, these game jade slips were not cheap. Especially the complex, large-scale games that even had formations engraved on them, making the characters and backgrounds lifelike. Because of this, jade slip games were particularly popular. Of course, some were overly explicit and circulated secretly. Those who could afford jade slip games were usually not short on money. Qi Yuan continued playing his game without looking up. Yes. Senior brother, have you been playing games all afternoon? Zhang Lingsu asked. Thinking about how she had been working hard while her senior brother was playing games, she felt a bit unbalanced. Don't you cultivate? If I'm not mistaken, senior brother, you should already be at the peak of qi refining, just a step away from foundation establishment, Zhang Lingsu, who was also at the peak of qi refining, said. I am cultivating, Qi Yuan replied. Playing games is cultivating. Although some game jade slips could indeed benefit cultivation, those were rare and very precious. Playing games, cultivating. Zhang Lingsu was momentarily confused, then realized something. Senior brother, you are from the obsessive lineage. What is your obsession? The obsessive lineage's cultivation differed significantly from other lineages. Others found a suitable technique for their spiritual roots and cultivated on their own. The obsessive lineage needed to find something to obsess over. Obsessed with something, for example, jade, flowers, or even swords. According to the elders in Zhang Lingsu's family, cultivation in the obsessive lineage focused on mental strength. Being deeply devoted to the object of their obsession. Extreme obsession could lead to madness. This made them somewhat out of touch with the outside world. Thus, cultivators of the obsessive lineage were extremely difficult to communicate with. Zhang Lingsu had seen cultivators of the obsessive lineage before but had never encountered one obsessed with games. Usually, those obsessed with games would be sent for treatment, with electrotherapy being the most popular. After all, traditional cultivators did not highly regard game obsession as part of the obsessive lineage. Does this count as an obsession? Qi Yuan didn't look up. If it does, then yes, I'm obsessed with it. Zhang Lingsu didn't know what to say. Should she suggest electrotherapy for her senior brother? Does an obsession with games have a future? Senior brother, isn't this a bit unreliable? I've never heard of a great cultivator obsessed with games. In the obsessive lineage, the potential of the object of obsession varied. For example, being obsessed with trees. A 1,000-year dragon blood tree was better than an ordinary tree, and a heaven-favored wood was better than a 1,000-year dragon blood tree. Games, what potential do they have? A new era calls for new things, Qi Yuan said casually, glancing at Zhang Lingsu. He had obtained this game jade slip a year ago, before transmigrating to this world. In Qi Yuan's view, it was like a gaming console. But this console was special, it seemed to connect to a network. His transmigration had a lot to do with this game jade slip. Even his ability to see hidden information was likely related to this jade slip. In this world, he had seen many game jade slips, similar in appearance but fundamentally different. Zhang Lingsu was at a loss for words. But she remembered her purpose. She continued, "Senior brother, can I get the cultivation techniques of 7-color peak?" Qi Yuan looked at Zhang Lingsu seriously and said, 7-color peaks techniques can't be cultivated. Why? Zhang Lingsu asked. Could senior brother know some secret? Does it have something to do with the peak master? The techniques are poisonous. PFF'd. If Zhang Lingsu had water in her mouth, she would have spit it out. Now, Qi Yuan seemed like a raving lunatic to her. But recalling the information she had gathered before coming, this senior brother of 7-color peak indeed had a reputation for being eccentric. So it wasn't surprising. "Senior brother, I don't mind. Please give me the techniques," Zhang Lingsu said. Qi Yuan slowly took out a jade slip and handed it to Zhang Lingsu. "This is the cultivation method of 7-color peak. But it's only half. The first part is the original technique. The latter part is my modification, but it's incomplete." He handed the technique jade slip to Zhang Lingsu. "Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Senior brother, you can modify cultivation techniques." Zhang Lingsu's eyes sparkled with amusement, adding a touch of charm to her already captivating face. Modifying cultivation techniques wasn't easy. Especially for a qi refining stage cultivator. Only cultivators at the Yuan Dan stage or higher were qualified to modify techniques. Therefore, Zhang Lingsu didn't take senior brother Qi Yuan's words seriously. She accepted the jade slip containing the technique and reminded him, "Senior brother, cultivation techniques are extremely important. Do not modify or practice them recklessly, it can lead to qi deviation." She had only just met Qi Yuan and didn't want to overstep her bounds, so she merely offered a word of caution. Qi Yuan looked at her and said softly, "Do you think everything will be fine if you don't modify the technique?" Zhang Lingsu was at a loss for words. It seemed her senior brother really had some mental issues, and they were quite serious. Obsessive lineage cultivators, indeed. She didn't say anything more and took the jade slip back to her room. 7-color flame refinement technique. A jade level technique. Looks pretty ordinary. She initially intended to investigate the 7-color peak master's background through this technique. But it looked quite ordinary. Although a jade level technique was decent, she didn't think much of it. After all, her family had plenty of jade-level techniques. She examined the content of the technique. The latter part is, modified by senior brother. It does look somewhat convincing. At least it fooled me. The climbing pavilion has a collection of myriad techniques. They might have this one. I wonder if Sister Yaya has annotated it. She's best at modifying techniques. If I get a chance, I'll have her evaluate the modifications, so senior brother can avoid taking the wrong path. Zhang Lingsu muttered to herself. Inside the straw house. Qi Yuan's attention was entirely focused on the game Jade Slip. He had had this game Jade Slip for a year. He had been playing this game for about a year too. It was just an ordinary boss fighting game. The game map showed the place called the Moonwatching Continent. The Moonwatching Continent had 4 forbidden areas and 2 death zones. Qi Yuan's current map was called Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone. Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone was filled with many monsters. These monsters were fierce and violent. There were snakes as thick as barrels, carnivorous flowers with sharp teeth, and beetles as large as tanks. To Qi Yuan, these monsters were just experience points. However, there was one monster in Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone that annoyed Qi Yuan and reduced his gaming experience. This monster was a foxtail that resembled a writing brush, with a flashy name, Crazy Brush. In Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone, Qi Yuan's game character wore golden armor, wreaking havoc everywhere. The powerful monsters had no chance against Qi Yuan. Just a level 50 monster, and it dares to show off in front of me. Kill. Qi Yuan swept his sword horizontally. At level 80, he could run rampant in Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone. These days, Qi Yuan had been slaughtering monsters left and right. When he first entered Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone, he was just an ordinary level 1 player. The game he played was called Survival. In a year, he leveled up to 80, allowing him to dominate Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone. Currently, the game was called Arrogant Bandit. The monsters in Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone now feared him. Slaying monsters on Moonwatching Continent greatly benefited Qi Yuan in reality. Otherwise, how could he have reached the peak of Qi refining in a year? Even true geniuses needed at least 3 years to reach the peak of Qi refining. The cultivation in the game could partially transfer to his real self. Of course, only partially. After all, he was very strong in the game. How strong? Qi Yuan had no concept. But killing the Shenguang sect's leader with one sword stroke wouldn't be a problem. In reality, however, he was just a novice at the chi refining stage. I need to defeat the final boss, Crazy Brush, to clear this level. Qi Yuan was filled with enthusiasm at this thought. He planned to clear the level today. I wonder what reward I'll get. Maybe a harmless cultivation technique. At the very least, a simple foundation establishment treasure would do. Thinking of Crazy Brush, Qi Yuan's eyes shone with intense battle spirit. This brush took the form of a brush during the day and transformed into a beautiful fox demon at night, becoming human-like and extremely seductive. Their favorite activity was night raids. If one fell for their charm, they would reveal their fangs at the most passionate moment. They would turn into sharp pens and pierce the entranced person's holes. Qi Yuan had seen many monsters fall for Crazy Brush's tricks in Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone, and it was miserable. Qi Yuan wouldn't be charmed by Crazy Brush, but he had to stay online at night. If he went offline, he had to guard against Crazy Brush. At one point, he almost emulated the male protagonist of an anime from his previous world and made himself a golden crotch guard. In the end, he dug a hole and buried himself in the ground before going offline, avoiding Crazy Brush's night raids. The final boss Crazy Brush is only level 70. No problem. I need to finish it quickly and take my pet for a walk in the evening. Qi Yuan held a long sword, donned golden armor, and emitted multicolored lights. Each slash came with various special effects, looking flashy. In other games, one glance would reveal he was a pay-to-win player, and a flamboyant one at that. Half an hour later, Qi Yuan stormed into the Xuanyuan Hall. Holding his large sword, he shouted dramatically, "Where do you think you're going, demon?" Timid in reality, he was bold and aggressive in the game. The response was Crazy Brush's terrified scream. He charged forward with his long sword, unstoppable. One Crazy Brush after another broke. His experience bar kept rising. "Come out, demon," Qi Yuan shouted, trying to lure out the biggest boss in Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone. Unfortunately, there was no response. All the Crazy Brushes were fleeing in all directions. Qi Yuan was having a blast. Just then, a golden light shone brightly. The Xuanyuan Hall began to shake. A foxtail-shaped brush broke through the ground. The sharp brush was like a sword, eager for a worthy opponent, directly stabbing at Qi Yuan. "Good thing I was prepared," Qi Yuan said calmly. He had a plan in place before coming. Even without a plan, he wouldn't fear it. His strength spoke for itself. 8 summer slashes. Qi Yuan used his strongest sword technique. That's right, he used a sword technique with a knife. In an instant, the Crazy Brush broke. Qi Yuan shrugged, only took 1 slash. Too weak. 7 more slashes to go. I wonder who can take them. So lonely. With the Crazy Brush defeated, Xuanyuan Hall collapsed. At this moment, a prompt sounded in Qi Yuan's ear. Open black lens bracket Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone cleared. Reward obtained. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket reward 1. Heavenly Tao Fragments *10. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket reward 2. Divine Brush. Close black lens bracket. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Heavenly Tao Fragments. This game is quite generous. The rewards are pretty substantial. As a person from Blue Star, Qi Yuan was very familiar with Heavenly Tao Fragments. After all, defying the heavens had long become a cliché. But regardless, Heavenly Tao Fragments were definitely valuable. It seems the Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone has become mine. Qi Yuan accepted the Heavenly Tao Fragments. He felt as if the Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone had become his territory. Interesting, Qi Yuan muttered. The Heavenly Tao Fragments seemed to grant control over the Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone. Receiving the fragments felt like becoming the game's GM. So, is the Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone mine now? Qi Yuan wasn't overly excited. Are the Heavenly Tao Fragments just this? Or do I need to collect all the fragments for them to be truly useful? He shifted his attention from the fragments to the Divine Brush. The Divine Brush, condensed by the power of rules, can inscribe rules in the Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone. For instance, specifying the conditions to enter the Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone. Wouldn't that mean anyone carrying a ladder could get in? Qi Yuan recalled a funny trend he had seen on Blue Star. Anyone with a ladder could seemingly go anywhere: cinemas, amusement parks, zoos. As long as they had a ladder, the staff wouldn't stop them. Thinking about it, Qi Yuan inscribed a rule in the Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone. Carrying a ladder grants free passage. Looks like it's getting late. Time to walk my pet. Qi Yuan rubbed his tired eyes. Playing this game too much was mentally exhausting for him. This was partly why he sometimes seemed disoriented and unreliable in the Shengguang sect. Of course, it wasn't entirely the game's fault. His personality was also a factor. He often appeared a bit eccentric. Qi Yuan tidied up and prepared to walk his pet and visit Zhuge Miao. Meanwhile, Zhang Lingsu also emerged from her straw house. She had spent the entire day fixing up her place and was now thinking of going down the mountain to buy some daily necessities. At that moment, she heard footsteps and looked over. Senior brother was going out. However, she was stunned when she saw senior brother. Senior brother, what are you doing? Zhang Lingsu asked, her face full of confusion. In her view, Qi Yuan was still wearing the white robe from earlier today. But unlike before, he was holding a rope. It looked like he was walking a pet. But that pet, was that really a pet? It was a kitchen knife. Yes, the other end of the rope was tied to a kitchen knife. And Qi Yuan was walking the kitchen knife. This scene was too bizarre. I'm walking my pet, Qi Yuan said calmly. It's been cooped up in the house for too long, its legs are going to rust. It needs some fresh air. A kitchen knife with legs. Taking a walk to prevent rust. Does he think it's a magical iron? It was obviously an ordinary kitchen knife. She was now certain that her senior brother had some mental issues. Senior brother has peculiar tastes, Zhang Lingsu managed to say. Are you going down the mountain? Want to come along? Qi Yuan invited. No, Zhang Lingsu quickly refused. Senior brother, you go ahead. I'll go later. Walking with a senior brother and his kitchen knife would draw too much attention. That would be too embarrassing. Qi Yuan glanced at Zhang Lingsu and then focused on the knife tied to the rope, speaking with concentration, behave, don't try to break free from the rope, or you'll be beaten to death, and I won't save you. Qi Yuan still had some manners, he walked his pet on a leash. Unlike some people who let their pets run loose. His pet was better kept on a leash, otherwise, his 8 summer slashes might come into play, and that wouldn't be good. Holding the rope, he slowly walked down the 7 Colors Peak. The night breeze was cool, and the sun in the sky was fading. Walking his pet, Qi Yuan felt particularly relaxed. Playing games too much made his eyes hurt, and his fingers hurt too. Blowing in the wind, walking, and looking at beautiful women was not bad either. After all, this was a world of cultivation, with a much higher probability of encountering beautiful women than in his previous life. Not to mention, they all had fair skin. Their faces had no obvious flaws. Even without makeup, they looked great. Senior brother Qi Yuan. A tall young woman greeted Qi Yuan. She wore a short skirt, her legs long and as white as jade but not sickly pale, making her particularly attractive. Qi Yuan responded. He came out almost every evening to walk his pet. Initially, he was the only one doing it. But as the senior brother of 7 Colors Peak, he had a certain celebrity effect. Walking pets slowly became popular in Shengguang sect, with many people imitating him. Of course, those senior brothers and sisters walked real pets, or rather, spirit beasts with combat abilities. Your little turtle is not bad. In a few thousand years, it might develop intelligence. Qi Yuan commented on the pet the tall woman was walking. The tall woman felt proud hearing the first half of his sentence. She had spent a lot of time selecting this spirit beast. But the second half of his sentence made her a bit frustrated. Thousands of years to develop intelligence. Is that considered good? Even with a good temper, she couldn't help but retort, Senior brother Qi Yuan, when will your pet awaken its intelligence? Qi Yuan's pet was a kitchen knife, how could it awaken intelligence? Many Shengguang sect disciples nearby laughed heartily at this. Qi Yuan frowned, thought for a moment, and said seriously, at most a year, or maybe very soon, it should awaken intelligence. Senior brother, you must be joking, the tall woman laughed, clearly not believing him. Qi Yuan just smiled and didn't explain. At that moment, Zhuge Miao's figure appeared in everyone's sight. He said, Junior brother Qi Yuan has modified the spirit refining technique and tested it himself. Regardless of success or failure, his courage is commendable. For you to laugh at this is to be frogs in a well. Hearing Zhuge Miao's words, everyone present lowered their heads. Senior brother's lesson is right. Zhuge Miao was the senior brother of the Divine Medicine Peak, a foundation establishment expert. They were very afraid of him. As for the amiable Qi Yuan, they didn't hold much reverence. After reprimanding the crowd, Zhuge Miao walked up to Qi Yuan, Junior brother Qi Yuan, Master was refining medicine today, and I was attending to him, so I'm late. Please forgive me. The domineering aura around Zhuge Miao dissipated, and he treated Qi Yuan as an equal, even with a hint of admiration. Junior brother Qi Yuan, I obtained a Yuan nourishing pill formula from an ancient cave. However, some parts are missing. Could you help me with it? I am willing to offer a foundation establishment treasure as thanks. Zhuge Miao's attitude was very humble, in stark contrast to his previous domineering manner. Qi Yuan took the Yuan nourishing pill formula and looked it over. Open black lens bracket. This is an incomplete Yuan nourishing pill formula. If you replace the Zhu Huang with privet, and the Yang Ji Yu with lesser tribulus, the pill's effectiveness can be increased by 50%, and its toxicity reduced by 1 or 2 degrees, close black lens bracket. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Qi Yuan's eyes had the ability to see hidden information. In an instant, he could see the missing parts of the pill recipe. Moreover, the method to improve the recipe appeared in his mind immediately. Of course, this improvement wasn't the optimal solution. If he were to look at the recipe again tomorrow, he would find a new way to improve it. And the effectiveness of the improvement would be even better. However, he could only see the hidden information of the same item once a day. The 7 colors flame refining technique he practiced had been continuously modified this way. Even so, the 7 colors flame refining technique still had significant issues. The Yuan nourishing pill recipe has many problems, Qi Yuan responded directly. Zhuge Miao's eyes showed anticipation. Please enlighten me, junior brother. Replace Zhu Huang with privet. Privet. Zhuge Miao was a bit confused. He wanted to ask about the missing parts, but Qi Yuan directly modified the recipe. However, recalling the last time he exchanged ideas with Qi Yuan, he was still amazed by Qi Yuan's wild and imaginative thinking. That time, Qi Yuan had helped him a lot. Moreover, since he was the one seeking help, he had to hold his opinions back. Just then, Zhuge Miao noticed something and said, Junior brother Qi Yuan, please wait, I have a message. A phone call. Qi Yuan didn't mind, go ahead. In the cultivation world, there were no phones, but there were message talismans. Cultivators could communicate through these message talismans. However, these messages had distance limitations, and the farther the message, the higher the cost. Additionally, entering certain secret realms would render them ineffective. So, not all cultivators could afford to use them. What's the matter, junior brother? Zhuge Miao lowered his voice to take the message. A complete recipe has been found. No need, you don't have to worry about it. After receiving the message, Zhuge Miao's face initially showed joy, but then he was a bit angry after hearing the advice from his junior brother. He cut off the message and looked at Qi Yuan, calming down, please continue, junior brother. The missing part is Yang drum. However, Yang drum has a strong Yang nature, which is somewhat conflicting. It can be replaced with lesser tribulus for better results, Qi Yuan said, extending his hand. Where's the foundation establishment spiritual item? Zhuge Miao was still processing Qi Yuan's words. Hearing Qi Yuan asking for the item, he quickly took out a piece of jade bamboo. The jade bamboo was purple, like amethyst, with a touch of white at the joints. This is purple crystal jade bamboo, an 8th grade foundation establishment spiritual item. Foundation establishment spiritual items had grades. They were divided into lower 3 grades, middle 3 grades, and upper 3 grades. Above the upper 3 grades, there were rumored to be even higher grades. The higher the grade of the foundation establishment spiritual item, the better the effect of establishing the foundation, and the greater the potential. Of course, the cultivation world was a place where miracles and fortuitous encounters were common. Nothing was absolute. It wouldn't be true to say that using a lower grade foundation establishment spiritual item would limit one's progress forever. Every foundation establishment spiritual item was invaluable. 8th grade was among the lower 3 grades of foundation establishment spiritual items. Even so, most ordinary Qi condensation disciples of the Shengguang sect couldn't afford a purple crystal jade bamboo even if they emptied their savings. For Zhuge Miao to use purple crystal jade bamboo as payment showed his wealth. This was the difference between a chief disciple and an ordinary disciple. Of course, even Zhuge Miao felt a bit pained to part with the purple crystal jade bamboo. Zhuge Miao continued, the grade of the purple crystal jade bamboo is a bit low. If junior brother is not in a hurry, you could gather more spirit stones and, along with the purple crystal jade bamboo, exchange for a higher grade foundation establishment spiritual item. Although purple crystal jade bamboo was extremely precious among other disciples, and ordinary disciples would use it to establish their foundation after perfecting their chi condensation cultivation, it was somewhat insufficient for chief disciples of various peaks. For example, Zhuge Miao used a 5th-grade dragon-seeking ruler, a middle-grade foundation establishment spiritual item, to establish his foundation. Qi Yuan took the purple crystal jade bamboo and nodded, Purple crystal jade bamboo wasn't his first choice for a foundation establishment spiritual item. Even if he couldn't use it in the future, he could exchange it for spirit stones. Although he was the chief disciple of Seven Colors Peak, he was truly poor. Compared to other peak chief disciples, the gap was considerable. Sigh, Zhuge Miao said, thinking of something, junior brother Qi Yuan, if you hadn't offended your master, you might have a middle grade or even upper grade foundation establishment spiritual item now, stepping into the foundation establishment stage. Zhuge Miao's words carried a hint of regret. He thought Qi Yuan was truly audacious to even provoke the Seven Colors Peak master. It was known that even the sect master of Shengguang sect held the Seven Colors Peak master in great respect. Zhuge Miao had heard from his master that Shengguang sect originally had only 4 peaks, but with the arrival of Ruan Yishi, a 5th peak, Seven Colors Peak, was added. This peak had existed for 1,000 years. This implied that the Seven Colors Peak master had lived for 1,000 years. A 1,000-year lifespan meant at least a nascent soul stage cultivation. Such a powerful figure could walk with impunity even in the Great Shang dynasty. Qi Yuan apprenticed under Ruan Yishi, which was akin to holding a golden thigh. Yet, Qi Yuan, bold and reckless, angered Ruan Yishi. As a result, all his resources were cut off. Qi Yuan's situation was miserable. If it were Zhuge Miao, he would have long been apologizing profusely before his master. However, Qi Yuan had no intention of apologizing. Considering Qi Yuan was a disciple of the Mad Sect, it became more understandable. Disciples of the Mad Sect were unruly and had unconventional thinking. Hearing Zhuge Miao's words, Qi Yuan's eyes softened. I didn't say anything wrong, so why should I apologize? Cold sweat dripped down Zhuge Miao's back. Junior brother Qi Yuan, let's stop here. He feared Qi Yuan might commit another outrageous act, offending the aloof and cold fairy of Seven Colors Peak. If he got involved, it wouldn't end well. Qi Yuan smiled. You all fear Ruan Yishi, but I don't because she is my. Don't say it. Zhuge Miao, heart pounding, quickly stopped Qi Yuan. Otherwise, if the Seven Colors Peak master got angry, it wouldn't bode well for him. Qi Yuan didn't say more, bid farewell to Zhuge Miao, and continued to walk his kitchen knife. Zhuge Miao sighed in relief. Luckily, nothing happened. At that moment, an anxious voice called out, Senior brother, did you exchange it? Shu Langu, dressed in a green robe with a gourd at his waist, hurried over. He pulled out a yellowed piece of paper. This is a recipe I picked up at the market today. It matches the Yuan nourishing pill recipe you found in the secret realm, so I contacted you immediately, senior brother. Shu Langu handed the recipe to Zhuge Miao, and seeing that Zhuge Miao's purple crystal jade bamboo was gone, he said in anguish. Senior brother, we already have the recipe. Why did you trade with Qi Yuan? He's not even from our divine medicine peak. How could he help you with the recipe? He probably hasn't left yet. I'll go catch up and get the purple crystal jade bamboo back. Shu Langu said a lot, not noticing Zhuge Miao's darkening face. My transaction with junior brother Qi Yuan is not for you to judge. Besides, even if Qi Yuan couldn't help me, so what? I'm willing to give him this favor. The previous message Zhuge Miao received was from Shu Langu. Zhuge Miao had already learned that his junior brother had a complete recipe. He had the opportunity to cancel the deal but didn't. Senior brother, Shu Langu's voice was nervous, I was just worried you'd return empty-handed. Luckily, I got the complete recipe. You saved my life, senior brother. I'll give the recipe to you. He no longer mentioned Qi Yuan. In his view, how could Qi Yuan understand the recipe? He had studied medicine for 10 years at the Divine Medicine Peak and couldn't complete the recipe, so how could Qi Yuan? Zhuge Miao took the recipe. I'll compare it with what junior brother Qi Yuan said and refine several batches of Yuan nourishing pills. That's a waste of ingredients, Shu Langu muttered, clearly thinking Qi Yuan's method wouldn't yield any Yuan nourishing pills. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Qi Yuan walked slowly through the Shengguang sect, with a vegetable knife in tow. Along the way, he occasionally heard laughter and some sweet talk. Such a harmonious cultivation world. He looked at the sky and said, it's time to return to the peak. The time was still early, and he could open the game Jade slip to play a game. By the time he returned to Key's Peak, it was already late at night. On the peak, the white jade palace was illuminated by a half-moon. The cold moonlight fell through the night, revealing a graceful silhouette that disappeared after a glance at Qi Yuan. Qi Yuan looked away and glanced at Zhang Lingsu's thatched hut, murmuring to himself, if there were these immobilizing talismans on Earth, houses wouldn't collapse during earthquakes. After sighing, he led the vegetable knife back to his small courtyard. The yard was empty, waiting only for Qi Yuan's footsteps. He untied the rope from the vegetable knife handle and said, no need to tie you up at home, just don't wreck the place, and no one will hit you. Qi Yuan stroked the small nicks on the knife and began to enter the game Jade Slip world. However, as he entered the game, Qi Yuan was stunned. She's online. When he first obtained the game Jade Slip, Qi Yuan treated it as a gaming console. Note: the protagonist has an unusual mindset, behaves erratically, and is neurotic. At that time, the game map was not unlocked. Qi Yuan inexplicably added a friend and entered the friend list. This was the only friend he made when he was sick. Since becoming ill, he lived alone without anyone to talk to. The in-game friend became his companion. Qi Yuan also treated her as a fellow gamer. They often chatted about various topics, mostly Qi Yuan listening to her. However, her conversation was odd, occasionally mentioning terms like Imperial Guards and Prime Minister. Qi Yuan guessed she might be a wealthy heiress who hadn't fully taken over the family business. They talked a lot, and Qi Yuan once suggested, let's team up in the game. Unfortunately, after the game map refreshed, his friend list disappeared, and he never saw her again, let alone teamed up. Now, seeing her in the friend list, he thought for a moment and sent a message, are you there? Now that he had traveled to the cultivation world, she might not be around. Mist filled the air, and the ink painting on the screen seemed stained, appearing with elongated patterns. Leave, a cold and majestic voice commanded, and the palace maidens all bowed their heads and left. Once the maids were gone, the empress of the Nangan kingdom, Jin Li, allowed her weariness to show on her beautiful face. 10 years ago, the demon clan invaded. Her father died in battle, and she became the empress of the Nangan kingdom at the age of 7. The vast empire was entirely on her shoulders. Demon clan invasions, enemy nations coveting, treacherous ministers. She struggled for 10 years. Now, she barely maintained the empire's balance, but the pressure on her shoulders grew heavier. One mistake could lead to her death. Recently, Prime Minister Sima Ting had almost openly colluded with the Northern Khanate, worsening her situation. 3 days ago, her most trusted Aunt Qin, a king-level expert, was ambushed by a group of black-clad assassins and severely injured. Although the assassins' origin was well hidden, everyone in the court knew who sent them. Knowing the enemy but being powerless was a terrible feeling. Standing by the screen, Jin Li untied the white jade belt, letting her clothes fall, revealing flawless skin like perfect jade. Although young, her figure was striking, with a delicate waist forming a sharp contrast. She entered the bath, her delicate shoulders floating on the water, the milky water making her skin seem even more like white jade. The empress closed her eyes, and the fatigue gradually faded from her body. At that moment, a red light flashed on the table. Jin Li's eyes showed a hint of surprise. Qi Yuan. On the table was the Linglong Yushi, a pair of legendary artifacts that allowed communication between the holders. Once famous, they lost value as long-distance communication treasures became common, and they were stored in the royal treasury. A year ago, Jin Li found the Linglong Yushi and took it, meeting an interesting person named Qi Yuan through it. He spoke whimsically, often in ways she didn't understand. Since they didn't know each other and were far apart, she felt free to confide in him. As an empress, she couldn't show weakness. However, half a year ago, Qi Yuan suddenly stopped communicating, leaving her anxious. Seeing him online now, she felt relieved and quickly replied, I'm here. After sending the message, Jin Li thought for a moment and asked, where have you been all this time? I was going to invite you to fight monsters together, but then the game map changed, and I couldn't contact anyone. That must have been a dangerous place, right? Jin Li asked. In her view, Qi Yuan was a free-spirited monster hunter. His terms like, fighting monsters, and, game map, referred to hunting beasts. Qi Yuan shrugged, we players are the fourth calamity. What's dangerous? Those monsters are just our experience packs. Jin Li felt reassured by his familiar tone and response. Every time they talked, even if Qi Yuan's words were odd, she felt a sense of peace. I fought monsters alone for half a year. Want to team up, male-female pairing, work less tiring. With the two of us, we'd reach level 100 in no time. Jin Li replied, I have things to handle at home and can't leave. So busy you don't even have time to game. Sigh, you wealthy folks work so hard. What about us poor folks? Qi Yuan's message made Jin Li smile. Why don't you come help me fight monsters? I just switched maps, and there are plenty here. I need your help, Miss Jin. Seeing his light tone, Jin Li knew he wasn't in danger. She smiled, I'm not available now. What are you doing? Working late. Jin Li hesitated before sending, bathing. Qi Yuan paused. Should we meet after your bath? Jin Li smiled wryly, I can't make it. But she thought of something and asked, where are you? I was in Xuanyuan Forbidden Area, now heading to Yiguan Forbidden Area, Qi Yuan answered truthfully. He was in the game's teleportation array, preparing to go to the next map. Xuanyuan Forbidden Area, Yiguan Forbidden Area, Jin Li was stunned. Those were among the 4 forbidden areas, where even king-level experts could die, and emperor-level experts might fall. Xuanyuan Forbidden Area was inaccessible even to emperor-level experts. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Wangyu Continent, vast and immeasurable. The human and demon races have equal power. Among the humans, there are over a dozen kingdoms, large and small. The human and demon races are the most powerful forces on Wangyu Continent. However, above both humans and demons, there exists an even more terrifying presence. It is not a race but the legendary 4 Forbidden Lands in one absolute. The 4 Forbidden Lands are extremely strange and perilous. Even the royal members of the demon race dare not step into them lightly, or they would face the danger of death and destruction. The Absolute Land is even more terrifying, known as Tianju. Entering it means certain death, even for royalty. Despite the dangers, anyone who enters the 4 Forbidden Lands in one absolute and returns alive gains immense benefits. The 4 Forbidden Lands are filled with spiritual herbs and countless heavenly treasures. It is said that Tianju contains an ascension platform, which, if climbed, allows one to ascend to the legendary Immortal world. Xuanyuan Forbidden Land is one of the famous Forbidden Lands, located within the Nengan Kingdom, less than 1,000 miles from the capital. Unlike other Forbidden Lands, Xuanyuan Forbidden Land is rumored to be the tomb of a supreme being. The outer perimeter of Xuanyuan Forbidden Land is protected by supreme restrictions, making it impossible for even emperor-level experts to enter. Now, Qi Yuan claims he has been fighting monsters in Xuanyuan Forbidden Land all this time. How is that possible? At first, Jin Li thought Qi Yuan was joking. However, she cautiously asked, you can't be serious, right? Why would I lie? I'm waiting to team up with you. Going through a dungeon alone is too boring. Jin Li still found it hard to believe. Xuanyuan Forbidden Land is filled with monsters. It took me over 6 months to clear them all. It was exhausting. Jin Li was stunned. The monsters in Xuanyuan Forbidden Land aren't just numerous, they are also very strong. For 10,000 years, no era on Wangyu Continent has ever conquered a Forbidden Land. To clear Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, one would need incredible strength. Even an emperor-level expert couldn't do it. What is your cultivation level? Are you an emperor? Jin Li cautiously asked. Emperor? What's that? I'm level 82 now. Level 82. Jin Li was puzzled, but she knew Qi Yuan often spoke strangely. For example, he once said he wanted to take a spaceship to the stars but was afraid of dying from a lack of oxygen. How far away are the stars? According to ancient records, there are countless worlds, the human world, the immortal world, and many more. Each world shares the same sky. It is said that the stars are reflections of great powers, not real. Climbing to the stars is an illusion. Qi Yuan saying odd things was perfectly normal. She thought for a moment and asked, how strong are the monsters in Xuanyuan Forbidden Land? The strongest is a mad pen. It's very sneaky and likes to turn into a pen at night to ambush people. I have to dig a pit and bury myself every time I log off to avoid it. It's barely level 70. Mad pen, level 70. Jin Li pondered. If what Qi Yuan said was true, level 70 should correspond to emperor level, maybe even supreme emperor. The Nengan Kingdom has only a handful of emperor-level experts, just 2 or 3. It's rumored that even emperor-level experts can't break into Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, Jin Li said. Xuanyuan Forbidden Land is easy to enter, like going to a movie theater. Just bring a ladder, and you're in. The monsters inside won't attack you, Qi Yuan said. I've already cleared the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land dungeon. Alright, I have to go. I've reached Yiguan Forbidden Land. We'll talk next time. Qi Yuan ended the communication. Jin Li, still in the bath, felt a pang of loss. Their conversation had been brief and rushed, without much said. Xuanyuan Forbidden Land to Yiguan Forbidden Land is 100,000 miles apart. How could he travel that distance in such a short time? Even a supreme emperor couldn't do it. In Jin Li's mind, Qi Yuan became more mysterious, shrouded in a veil. Qi Yuan, what kind of person are you? Jin Li scooped up a handful of water, letting it slide down her fair shoulder, her worries dissipating like water. Does it matter what kind of person Qi Yuan is? At least they were good pen pals, friends who had never met. After her bath, Jin Li dressed herself. She disliked being attended to by palace maids, who knew if there were spies planted by Prime Minister Sima Ting. Returning to Fengluan Palace, she sat on the glazed imperial throne, thick memorials piled before her. As the night deepened, she began reviewing the memorials. Occasionally, her delicate brows furrowed, her slender hand writing something. The Southern War is urgent, and the War Elephant clan has joined the battle. The Crown Prince of Nanfang Kingdom will arrive in the capital in 3 days. Jin Li held her forehead, feeling a headache. The Nangan Kingdom was like a big piece of meat, coveted by many. She knew all too well the Crown Prince's intentions. Looking at the memorials, her headache intensified. She thought of Qi Yuan, only talking with him allowed her to forget her identity and responsibilities. But she also understood that as she enjoyed luxurious privileges and became the Empress of Nangan, she had to shoulder the responsibility for its people. Someone, go to the library and bring me all records related to Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, Jin Li ordered the maid beside her. Yes. The maid retreated, and Jin Li continued reviewing the memorials. The general's mansion, located on Qingyi Alley, was once bustling when the general was alive. Now, it was desolate. At this moment, an uninvited guest arrived. The visitor was broad-shouldered, about 7 feet tall, with a beard and a noticeable dent in his forehead. He was Sima Ting, the power-holding Prime Minister of the Nangan Kingdom. Looking at the general's widow, he slowly said, Madam Qin, how are your injuries? Lady Qin glared at Sima Ting, her eyes blazing with anger. Sima Ting! She shouted, her face even paler. She knew all too well who was responsible for her injuries. Sima Ting dared to come here. Sima Ting remained calm. Madam Qin, the big picture is set. Why do you persist? What future do you have following that girl? How dare you disrespect the Empress? Lady Qin was furious. If she hadn't been ambushed and severely injured, Sima Ting wouldn't dare speak like this in front of her, a top king-level expert. Sima Ting glanced at her with disdain. A mere woman. Without me, what right did she have to ascend the throne? She tripped on flat ground during her coronation, a sign from the heavens that she is unworthy. In her 10 years of rule, Nangan faces internal and external troubles. Without me, the kingdom would have collapsed. She is no longer fit to rule. Lady Qin felt both anger and sorrow. She had watched Jin Li grow up. Jin Li worked hard, but she couldn't master imperial politics, couldn't manipulate the court officials. She wasn't a cunning emperor but a diligent and benevolent ruler. Sometimes, Lady Qin wished Jin Li were just a regular princess, not the empress. But holding the imperial seal, one couldn't retreat or avoid fighting. To not fight was to die. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Aunt Qin would rather Jin Li not be in that position. But she knew it was not possible. You treacherous wolf. She glared at Sima Ting, her eyes full of anger. Colluding with the Northern Khan court, you deserve to be executed. The Northern Khan court and the Nangan Kingdom were archenemies. Every autumn harvest, the iron cavalry of the Northern Khan court would break through the border and raid the Nangan Kingdom. The two nations had a deep blood feud. That is the difference between you and me, Sima Ting said proudly. Between nations, there are only interests, warriors talk about grudges and revenge. Lady Qin, I advise you to know your place and hand over the treasury key, or else. Sima Ting threatened. As the legitimate wife of the late great general, Lady Qin held the key to the imperial treasury. This key could unlock the Tianyan lock and retrieve the Tianyan imperial seal. For Sima Ting to usurp the throne, he needed the Tianyan imperial seal to legitimize his claim and receive the national fortune of Nangan. Don't even think about it. Sima Ting looked at Lady Qin and said no more. After all, she was the widow of the great general. Currently, General Tianqi on the front line had been as close as brothers with the great general. If he killed Lady Qin, things would get complicated. But Lady Qin was the Empress's reliance, so he had to severely injure her, rendering the Empress without claws and teeth. Lady Qin, take care of yourself, Sima Ting said. In 3 days, the Crown Prince of Nanfang Kingdom will arrive. In 10 days, the duel will take place. How will you respond? With that, Sima Ting left, flicking his sleeves. Anger flashed in Lady Qin's eyes, then turned to desolation. She was severely injured, her foundation damaged, making a quick recovery almost impossible. The duel would likely end in defeat. Your Majesty, there are a total of 7 books here, all records about Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, the maid said, placing the books on the jade throne. Jin Li nodded, picking up a book and reading it carefully. Today, after hearing Qi Yuan mention Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, she became interested in it. Now, Lady Qin was seriously injured. In 10 days, the Crown Prince of Nanfang Kingdom would arrive in Nangan's capital, and his national teacher would duel Lady Qin. If they lost, Nangan Kingdom would lose face, and her own fate would be in jeopardy. 10 years ago, when her father passed away and she had not yet ascended the throne, Nangan was in turmoil. Nanfang Kingdom stationed 200,000 troops at the border, ready to invade. Prime Minister Sima Ting went to the border and reached an agreement with Nanfang Kingdom on behalf of Nangan. This agreement left a pitfall for Jin Li. If they lost the duel, she would have to marry the Crown Prince of Nanfang Kingdom. How could an empress marry a foreign prince? This was Sima Ting's trap. 10 years ago, before she ascended the throne, the agreement Sima Ting made with Nanfang Kingdom was just a matter of exchanging a princess for border peace. Now, Lady Qin was seriously injured. To win this duel, she needed to recover first to have the strength to fight. Among the 4 forbidden lands, there were many spiritual items, possibly medicinal herbs for healing. After reading a few books, Jin Li discovered that Xuanyuan Forbidden Land contained rare spiritual herbs with various effects like healing and longevity. 9-flower celestial silk. Jin Li was moved when she read this. According to ancient records, there was a spiritual herb called 9-flower celestial silk in Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. This herb, with 9 petals emitting 9 different fragrances, was called the Emperor's Herb. If Lady Qin obtains this herb, not only would her injuries heal, but she might even break through to the Emperor level. This information came from a top emperor. By chance, he entered Xuanyuan Forbidden Land and saw the herb, but was attacked by demon kings inside. Outnumbered, he escaped but never had the chance to enter again. So, Xuanyuan Forbidden Land has many demon kings. Demon emperors, unknown. Jin Li pondered, if there were no demon emperors, and only demon kings' census to deal with, they might sneak in and collect the herb. Unfortunately, there's no record of how to enter Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. Each of the 4 forbidden lands had its own difficulties. For Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, the hardest part was entry. Could it really be as Qi Yuan said, just bring a ladder to enter? Thinking of Qi Yuan, a smile appeared on Jin Li's lips. Of course, that seemed impossible. It was too outrageous, lacking any logic. However, Qi Yuan had no reason to deceive her. She trusted him deeply, otherwise, she wouldn't have asked the maid to gather information about Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. Jin Li read the remaining books carefully, but none mentioned how to enter Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. Suddenly, she saw a passage and read it aloud. In Xuanyuan, there is a monster, resembling a fox tail and a pen, mad and aggressive, favoring night attacks. This record was also from the Supreme Emperor. Jin Li was stunned. Qi Yuan's previous words came to mind. A mad pen, very sneaky, likes to turn into a pen at night to ambush people. Is this the same beast? Countless thoughts flashed through Jin Li's mind. The Supreme Emperor who left this information had been a Grand Protector of Nangan Kingdom. This information had always been in the library, never spreading out. How did Qi Yuan know? Could Qi Yuan be a member of the royal family? Jin Li's mind was in turmoil. No, he knows that beast is called the Mad Pen. Could it be, Qi Yuan has really been to Xuanyuan Forbidden Land? Jin Li took out the exquisite jade and quickly sent a message. Qi Yuan, have you really been to Xuanyuan Forbidden Land? Entering with a ladder, is that true? I urgently need to enter. Although Qi Yuan was often unreliable and liked to joke, she feared he might answer casually, so she mentioned her own need. She was betting her life on this. Qi Yuan wouldn't joke about this. However, after sending the message, Qi Yuan did not reply. Unfortunately, Yiguan Forbidden Land is too far. Otherwise, alas. Jin Li sighed, then her eyes became determined. Prepare for departure. Tomorrow I will leave the palace. Time was running out. She decided to leave the palace tomorrow and head to Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. She had no other choice. Staying in the capital was just waiting to die. She then ordered, send a squad of Kirin guards to Yiguan Forbidden Land to see if there are any disturbances. Qi Yuan said he went to Yiguan Forbidden Land. If Qi Yuan was a strong man, there would certainly be turmoil in Yiguan Forbidden Land. She sent the Kirin guards to investigate. Meanwhile, in Yiguan Forbidden Land, Qi Yuan carried a golden great sword, looking curiously at the strange creatures ahead. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Qi Yuan looked around and saw many colorful clothes floating in the Yiguan Forbidden Land. These little monsters are quite creative in their design. The colorful clothes included robes, short jackets, long gowns, vests, nursing skirts, coats, dungarees. Both ancient and modern clothing styles were represented. These clothes floated in the air like living beings. However, when Qi Yuan entered the Yiguan Forbidden Land, all the clothes turned their heads in unison. Although the clothes had no heads, Qi Yuan felt as if thousands of eyes were staring at him. Tough opponent, run! Qi Yuan immediately fled. Even though he was at level 82, the clothing monsters in the Yiguan Forbidden Land were too numerous. There were at least 10,000 of them, and many were above level 50. Most importantly, the beasts and monsters in the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land were powerful but lacked organized structure, each fighting independently. But these clothes were clearly organized like an army. If Qi Yuan made a move, these clothes would swarm him. Qi Yuan shamelessly ran away. After about a quarter of an hour, Qi Yuan sighed in relief. Finally escaped. He picked up his big golden sword and dug a hole in the ground. The hole's depth was unknown. He dug with great skill. After all, he was used to it. He lay down in the hole. Only then did he notice the message from Jin Li on the chat interface. He immediately replied, I wasn't lying to you, you can enter the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land by carrying a ladder. It's not dangerous. Since he personally set the rules, how could there be a problem? Of course, seeing that Jin Li said she would go to the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land herself, Qi Yuan checked his game screen. The game screen showed that the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land was in a controlled state. This meant the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land belonged to him. He sent another message, don't worry, go boldly. On the Qiwan Peak, Qi Yuan looked at the moonlight and felt a bit tired. He wondered if playing the game for too long had drained his energy. He said to Jin Li in the game, there are too many clothing monsters in the Yiguan Forbidden Land. I'll clear them tomorrow. I dug a hole and buried myself in the dirt. Logging off, good night. After saying that, Qi Yuan put down the game Jade Slip. The game Jade Slip also merged into his body. Meanwhile, in the dark palace, Jin Li, who was already asleep, suddenly opened her eyes. She looked at the content in the Linglong Yushi and her eyes flashed with a strange expression. Okay, be careful, stay safe, good night. A simple greeting. At the same time, in the Prime Minister's residence, Sima Ting was still awake. On his desk were a pile of documents to process. One could say that compared to Jin Li, the Empress, he was more like a skilled politician who always put interests first. Did the Empress make any moves today? Sima Ting put down a document and asked slowly. A person cloaked in shadows appeared beside him, bowing their head. Today, the Empress saw the Minister of Revenue at noon to gather disaster relief funds. In the afternoon, she visited Madame Qin. After returning to the palace, she reviewed documents without any other movements. However, at night, she instructed a maid to retrieve information on the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land from the library. Xuanyuan Forbidden Land? Sima Ting smiled. It seems she has no other methods left and can only place her hopes on the illusory Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. Sima Ting knew that the battle in 10 days was crucial for Empress Jin Li. If Empress Jin Li lost, her already precarious situation would collapse. And now, with Madame Qin severely injured, she couldn't possibly be a match for the Grand Master of Nanfeng Kingdom. So, Empress Jin Li took the risk to go to the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, hoping to find a rare herb to heal Madame Qin. This was Sima Ting's guess. The Empress has no way out, don't worry about her. Sima Ting didn't take Jin Li seriously. His main concerns were the collaborators of the Northern Han King Court and the Tianqi general guarding the frontier. However, he picked up the documents and added, send some people to follow, just in case anything unexpected happens. It's always wise to be cautious. Familiar sounds came. Qi Yuan waved his hand, sealing the wooden cat puppet again, silencing it. But this time, Qi Yuan rarely opened his eyes. The sun is already up. As the senior brother of the Qiwan Peak, I need to set an example for my junior sister and not sleep in. Although the disciples of the Divine Light sect had finished their morning training, for Qi Yuan, it was rare to get up early. After washing up, Qi Yuan stretched lazily in the sunlight, looking relaxed. But because he was very handsome, even his laziness looked particularly elegant. Good morning, junior sister. Qi Yuan saw Zhang Lingsu covered in sweat as he left the courtyard. He didn't get too close, deliberately keeping his distance. He also saw hidden information about Zhang Lingsu. Open black lens bracket. This is an ordinary girl, she has many Dao techniques, trains hard, and hopes to one day have the strength to dominate the world and end all disasters. Close black lens bracket. Seeing this, Qi Yuan's evaluation of Zhang Lingsu improved a bit. Zhang Lingsu looked at Qi Yuan and frowned. Senior brother, why do you look so weak, as if you've indulged too much? Qi Yuan was taken aback. He just played too many games, which drained his energy. Currently, his strength was stuck at the peak of the Qi refining stage, not yet reaching foundation establishment. So, isn't it normal for playing games to be tiring? Unfortunately, Qi Yuan now lacked two things to reach foundation establishment. One thing was a suitable technique. The second was a suitable foundation establishment spiritual item. A suitable technique would naturally have to be self-created. Although his cultivation was low, his eyes could see hidden information. He could create a technique and then continuously improve it based on the hidden information. Qi Yuan had already read all the sect's techniques. Unfortunately, he was still far from creating his own technique. Or rather, his accumulation was too little. However, he had just seen that Zhang Lingsu had many Dao techniques. He said to Zhang Lingsu, "Junior sister, you need to save your senior brother." Zhang Lingsu was worried, fearing that her senior brother had a problem with his cultivation. What's wrong? She asked. Qi Yuan said lazily, I see you have an extraordinary background. Do you want to borrow money? No, I want to borrow some of your techniques, regardless of grade, just let me have a look. Qi Yuan said. Zhang Lingsu sighed in relief, senior brother, how many do you need? The more the better, Qi Yuan said, ideally hundreds or even thousands. Numerous Dao techniques indicated a large quantity. Senior brother, what do you need so many techniques for? Zhang Lingsu asked. Qi Yuan replied lazily, even if I told you, you wouldn't believe it. Give me some techniques, and when I succeed in my cultivation, I will protect you, not just in the Divine Light sect, but throughout the Kanglin realm. Zhang Lingsu laughed upon hearing this. Protect her? Does she need protection? Although Qi Yuan was taller and possibly older, Zhang Lingsu felt she could easily defeat him with one hand. What do you need so many techniques for? Tell me, Zhang Lingsu asked again. To create my own technique, Qi Yuan didn't hide it. After all, no one would believe the truth in this world. For example, he had exposed the sect leader as a spy, but no one believed him. Zhang Lingsu was stunned. Create his own technique. This senior brother really dared to think big. But thinking of something, she still took out a jade slip. Senior brother, this jade slip contains many techniques. I'll lend it to you. For many years, Ruan Yishi had only taken Qi Yuan as a disciple. This showed that Ruan Yishi must value Qi Yuan greatly. She needed to build a good relationship with Qi Yuan. I've lent you the techniques, but senior brother, you must not get addicted to games and train hard so that you can protect your little junior sister in the future, Zhang Lingsu said. Gaming is also a form of cultivation, Qi Yuan said, taking the jade slip of techniques. As for the smell of sweat on his junior sister, it no longer smelled bad, but rather fragrant, because the jade slip contained hundreds of techniques. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Zhang Lingsu no longer denied Qi Yuan. The obsessed path was different from ordinary people. As for being obsessed with games, whether there's potential or not, it actually depends on the person. A sword prodigy practicing basic sword techniques could still defeat a mediocre person practicing the Nine Heavens divine sword. Of course, is senior brother a prodigy? In Zhang Lingsu's opinion, he counts as a genius, but he's far from being a prodigy. The Dasheng kingdom is too small. And the Kanglin realm is too big. Even her family, in the Kanglin realm, is actually not much. Senior brother, remember to practice well and protect me in the future. After saying this, Zhang Lingsu returned to her thatched cottage to continue her cultivation. Qi Yuan also returned to his room. He held the jade slip of techniques given by Zhang Lingsu and started to carefully browse through it. The Earth Fiend Demon Soul Technique. The 4 Advancement Technique. The 3 Yuan Art. Qi Yuan quickly read through the techniques in the jade slip. And his talent of seeing hidden information was constantly at play. Open black lens bracket. This is the 4 Advancement Technique, created by the 4 Gentlemen of Jinjiang. On the surface, it's a high-grade technique, but in reality, it's a dual cultivation technique for 4 people. If 4 people practice together, it can reach the jade level. Close black lens bracket. Cultivation techniques are divided into initial grade, intermediate grade, high grade, jade level, profound level, and heavenly level. The higher the grade, the harder it is to practice, but its power and potential are also higher. The jade slip contained a total of 627 techniques, mostly initial and intermediate grades. High grades were rare, and there were only a few jade levels. For 2 consecutive days, Qi Yuan was immersed in the jade slip, not even touching the game jade slip. For him, accumulating this knowledge was greatly beneficial. With his ability to see hidden information, he could easily create a technique that wouldn't become fodder for some entity. Of course, this technique might have limited potential. For example, its effect at full mastery might be equivalent to doing 100 push-ups a day. On the second night, Qi Yuan had dark circles under his eyes. He suddenly laughed loudly. I've got it. That's right, he finally succeeded in creating a rough outline of a technique based on the techniques in the Shenguang sect and those given by his junior sister Zhang Lingsu. He looked at his technique. Open black lens bracket. This is a flawed technique. Practicing it has a certain probability of causing memory confusion and can be practiced to the peak of the qi refining stage. It's worth mentioning that practicing this technique won't become fodder for any entity. Close black lens bracket. Qi Yuan was very excited. It was not in vain that he had studied hard for this period. Effort paid off. Such a successful technique deserves a resounding name. Qi Yuan thought seriously. The technique he successfully created naturally had to be taken seriously. After some thought, he finally decided on the name of the technique. It will be called Qi Yuan Scripture from now on. The name was simple and easy to understand. Qi Yuan was very satisfied. After the joy, Qi Yuan felt a strong sense of fatigue. He had indeed overexerted himself. Unfortunately, it can only be practiced to the peak of the qi refining stage. Tomorrow, I need to attend some grand lectures to fully understand the foundation establishment and strive to perfect the technique to the foundation establishment stage. He picked up the game jade slip, intending to enter, but ultimately, he was too exhausted, his eyelids unwillingly closed, and the game jade slip also merged into his body. I wonder how Jin Li is doing. Qi Yuan fell into a deep sleep. Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, a place rarely visited by people. A forbidden land represents great terror. The inside of the forbidden land is extremely dangerous, and the periphery of the forbidden land is also full of danger, rarely visited by people. Especially the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, which is said to be impenetrable even by supreme emperors. At this moment, outside the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, a group of unexpected guests arrived. There were 7 women dressed in extraordinary attire and 3 men dressed in prisoner clothes. The strangest thing was that all of them were carrying a ladder on their backs. Jin Li looked ahead at the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. She saw that the periphery of the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land seemed to have a protective barrier. This barrier couldn't be broken even by an emperor. Through the barrier, one could see a few hundred meters into the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. But even in these few hundred meters, Jin Li saw many terrifying beasts. At this moment, the commander of the Forbidden Army stepped forward, her face showing respect. Your Majesty, we just investigated the nearby area, and they all said that the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land hasn't changed, and there's been no commotion from inside. Hearing this, Jin Li's eyes showed a trace of doubt. A while ago, Qi Yuan told her that he was constantly grinding monsters in the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. If he was grinding monsters, there should be some commotion from inside the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. But the information she got was like this, making her hesitate. The commander of the Forbidden Army also had many questions in her mind. However, she was loyal to the Empress, and she would unswervingly follow the Empress's orders. Yes. Jin Li's voice was cold and dignified. You all, carrying ladders, head towards the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. 6 Forbidden Army elite drew their swords towards the 3 prisoners. The 3 prisoners were all death row inmates, brought here without knowing what for. They knew that ahead was the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, which even emperor-level powerhouses couldn't enter. How could they enter? However, with swords at their backs, they could only carry the ladders and slowly move forward. Next to her, the commander of the Forbidden Army finally asked, "Your Majesty, you intend to enter the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, but, can this really work?" Jin Li was also anxious inside. She trusted the 6 women a lot. A friend told me that carrying a ladder might allow entry into the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. This sounds quite absurd. The commander of the Forbidden Army said. The other Forbidden Army members also felt the same. A few hundred meters away, on a big tree, were 2 men. They were sent by Prime Minister Sima Ting. Since the Prime Minister had no expectations for Jin Li entering the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, he didn't send experts. These 2 men, overlooking from above, were curious. What does the Empress mean? Trying to break into the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land? Breaking into the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land is one thing, but why carry a ladder? Ridiculous. No wonder most of the world is ruled by men and rarely by women. This Empress is too funny. Carrying a ladder to enter the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land sounded absurd. It was like saying someone could ascend by farting loudly. But in the next moment, their expressions turned incredulous. Because they saw that the protective barrier of the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, which even emperor-level powerhouses couldn't break, allowed the 3 prisoners carrying ladders to enter openly. Jin Li's heart was extremely excited. What Qi Yuan said was true. The commander and the other members of the Forbidden Army were all in disbelief. Even though Jin Li was excited, she remained calm. Yu, take care of the 2 bugs behind. The Forbidden Army member named Yu disappeared. Jin Li's gaze deepened. She looked at the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land with a complex expression. Thinking about something. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. At this moment, the present elite guards and their commander still wore expressions of disbelief. That was Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, a terrifying forbidden place that had existed for countless millennia. Even supreme emperors could not enter it. For tens of thousands of years, countless strong individuals had researched ways to enter it, all ending in failure. But now, carrying a ladder allowed entry. Isn't that too simple? Jin Li's voice was icy. This matter must not be leaked. We swear on our lives that this matter will not be revealed to a second person. The elite guards present knew the importance of the matter. The commander of the guards was excited. This is heaven's blessing for our emperor. Once we master the method of entering Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, we can send people inside and surely gather many spiritual herbs from the periphery. Xuanyuan Forbidden Land had not been entered by any living being for at least 10,000 years, there must be many spiritual herbs inside. The depths of Xuanyuan Forbidden Land were still beyond their current strength to explore, but the periphery surely had plenty of spiritual herbs and fewer fierce beasts. The guard commander was about to enter carrying a ladder. Even in just the periphery, she had already seen several extremely precious spiritual herbs. Jin Li's face remained cold, revealing no hint of her inner excitement. She had a ladder beside her but had not carried it yet, needing further verification. Do not act rashly for now, let's observe a bit more. The death row inmates were all extremely wicked individuals. At this moment, the 3 carrying ladders entered Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. Their faces showed shock and fear. One man, seeing a spiritual herb, displayed greed. He immediately plucked it and stuffed it into his stomach. Outside, there were powerful elite guards. To survive, eating spiritual herbs was the only chance. As for escape, their current speed was about the same as ordinary people. With the elite guards watching them, how could they escape? Eating the spiritual herbs was their only possible chance for survival. Seeing the death row inmates eating the spiritual herbs, the guard commander was extremely anxious. Even she would not dare eat those herbs so casually. But the death row inmates were gobbling them down. Empress Jin Li remained calm and silent, watching inside the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. Seeing this, the guard commander could only stay put, feeling a deep heartache. It hurt more than having 3 ounces of flesh cut from her chest. At this moment, Empress Jin Li's pupils contracted. The elite guards also sensed something, becoming alert. A roar resounded, and a giant blue-eyed, white-furred beast appeared, a full 10 feet tall. Its footfalls broke trees and crushed objects, sending wood chips flying. The beast was only a few hundred meters from the 3 prisoners. For such a fierce beast, a few hundred meters was a matter of moments. Blue Gang Tiger. The guard commander's face was solemn, a terrifying beast at the Demon King level. She was a king-level powerhouse, on par with the Blue Gang Tiger. But in actual combat, she was no match for the Blue Gang Tiger. The Blue Gang Tiger was naturally bloodthirsty, the 3 prisoners were doomed. With the Blue Gang Tiger present, they couldn't enter the periphery of Xuanyuan Forbidden Land without conflict. Seeing the Blue Gang Tiger, 2 prisoners dropped their ladders and ran frantically. One was so scared his legs gave out, clinging to his ladder and unable to move. Roar! The Blue Gang Tiger roared, spitting a blast of energy at the 2 fleeing prisoners. Their bodies stiffened, fell, and were torn to pieces, blood and flesh splattered. The remaining prisoner, clinging to his ladder, wet himself in fear. The Blue Gang Tiger glanced at him, its eyes showing a strange look of contemplation or reverence. Then, it walked away. The guard commander was stunned. The other guards were also shocked. Why did the Blue Gang Tiger leave? Wasn't it bloodthirsty by nature? Wouldn't it attack any humans entering? Empress Jin Li's eyes showed a complex expression. Carrying a ladder allowed entry into Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, unhindered. Qi Yuan had not lied. Qi Yuan was telling the truth. Qi Yuan, who are you? Jin Li felt confused, and a hint of inferiority crept into her heart. But she quickly discarded that feeling. Everyone, carry your ladders and follow me inside. Remember, even if you encounter fierce beasts, do not let go of your ladders, understand? Yes, Your Majesty. The guards complied. The guard commander advised. Your Majesty, you are of noble status, you shouldn't venture into such a dangerous place. Let us go in while you wait here. Empress Jin Li thought of Qi Yuan. If she didn't go in, she would be betraying Qi Yuan's trust. It's fine, I'll go with you. Empress Jin Li's words were unquestionable. The group, carrying their ladders, entered Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. They also dealt with the remaining prisoner. So many spiritual herbs. That's 3 flower fragrance. Zanyu grass. Green fruit. The elite guards were ecstatic at the abundance of spiritual herbs in the periphery of Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. The place had been untouched for 10,000 years. The spiritual herbs here were beyond imagination. Unlike other forbidden lands, where the periphery's spiritual herbs had long been harvested by strong individuals, leaving only the dangerous depths. But now, they were reaping a rich harvest in the periphery of Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. In just 1 hour, we've already harvested 23 king-grade spiritual herbs. Jin Li couldn't help but sigh. King-grade spiritual herbs, even for Empress Jin Li of the Nengan Kingdom, she had consumed less than 10 in her life. And here, in such a short time, they had gathered 23. There were even more spiritual herbs of other grades. This short harvest alone was worth more than the annual revenue of the national treasury. The guard commander's face glowed. With so many spiritual herbs, we can produce numerous strong individuals and attract many experts to serve us. Jin Li was also pleased. She remembered Qi Yuan saying he had cleared Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. Yes, cleared. Thinking of something, she said, we need to go deeper into Xuanyuan Forbidden Land to harvest emperor-grade spiritual herbs, especially the 9-flower celestial. Jin Li wanted to go deeper, indeed, to harvest the 9-flower celestial. But there was another reason. The nearby guards' faces changed slightly. Xuanyuan Forbidden Land's depths had emperor-grade spiritual herbs but also emperor-level fierce beasts. If they encountered a king-level fierce beast, they could still escape. But encountering an emperor-level fierce beast meant almost certain death. They gripped their ladders more tightly, wondering if the ladders would still be effective. We will go with Your Majesty. Good. Jin Li nodded. To turn the tables, the 20-odd king-grade spiritual herbs were far from enough. She needed the 9-flower celestial to heal Aunt Qin's injuries and even help Aunt Qin advance. She also needed to gather other emperor-grade spiritual herbs. Of course, she also wanted to see the depths of Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, where Qi Yuan had stayed for half a year. The group of beauties, carrying ladders, cautiously walked through Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. Whenever they encountered fierce beasts, whether strong, weak, fierce, or gentle, the beasts ignored them, even avoiding harming them. This scene amazed the guard commander. Carrying ladders allows us to enter Xuanyuan Forbidden Land without the beasts attacking us. This is truly incredible. After speaking, she added, who is the remarkable person who told this method to Your Majesty? The others also looked at Jin Li, full of curiosity. It must be a supreme emperor, right? Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. A trace of gentleness flashed in the depths of Jin Li's eyes. He is my friend. She added, I'm not very clear about his identity either. The few Imperial guards present were all moved. Who exactly is this extraordinary person? I didn't expect myself to be so diligent. It seems that the good quality of hard work in our nation is truly ingrained in my genes. Qi Yuan stretched his body and felt very happy. Today, even before the puppet cat called, he had already gotten up. Sure enough, not playing games, going to bed early and getting up early, only then can you enjoy such a beautiful morning. At this moment, Zhang Lingsu's voice came, Senior brother, we have finished our morning practice. Hearing this, Qi Yuan felt a bit embarrassed. Zhang Lingsu continued, however, compared to the previous days, Senior brother, you have made progress. If you can follow what you just said, and not play those decadent games anymore, the future is promising. Not playing games is impossible. Qi Yuan decisively rejected. Senior brother, didn't you say you would take care of me in the future? Zhang Lingsu smiled, if you don't practice well, how can you take care of me? Don't let it be that after causing trouble, you need your junior sister to take care of you. You taking care of me is also not bad. Qi Yuan said, my favorite saying is, if one gains wealth, do not forget old friends. Zhang Lingsu rolled her eyes at Qi Yuan. Qi Yuan thought of something and took out the jade slip of the cultivation technique. Junior sister, here's your jade slip back. Thank you. Zhang Lingsu took the jade slip, with a smile on her lips. Senior brother, have you created your own cultivation technique? Naturally, Qi Yuan said confidently, but it's not yet perfect, it can only be cultivated to the peak of the qi refining stage. I need to extend it to the foundation establishment stage. Hearing this, Zhang Lingsu was stunned for a moment, then laughed even more joyfully, only 2 days and senior brother has created a cultivation technique, truly a prodigious talent. She spoke insincerely, because, this is impossible. Unless, instead of creating a cultivation technique, it's more like modifying someone else's technique and claiming it as his own. Of course, that's still very impressive. Would you like to switch to practicing the technique I created? Qi Yuan said seriously, the techniques you are practicing have too many issues. They would become the nourishment for some entity. Naturally, Qi Yuan wouldn't practice such techniques. Thank you for your kind offer, senior brother, but there's no need. Zhang Lingsu declined. The technique she practiced was a heaven-level technique, and there was no way she would switch to another. Senior brother, looking at your attire, are you planning to go down the mountain? Yes. Qi Yuan nodded, I plan to create the foundation establishment part of the technique, but unfortunately, I don't understand much about foundation establishment, especially its grades, so I plan to go down the mountain and listen to some lectures on foundation establishment. Hearing this, Zhang Lingsu became even more certain that what senior brother said before were all jokes. Not understanding much about foundation establishment and yet planning to create a cultivation technique. Can such a technique really be practiced? Before leaving, Zhang Lingsu kindly reminded, senior brother, cultivation techniques are the foundation of a cultivator, don't modify them lightly. Half an hour later, Qi Yuan sat in the lecture hall. He came early and found a good seat. Later, more and more disciples came in, and when they saw Qi Yuan, they all showed puzzled expressions. They lowered their voices and whispered, he's wearing a purple robe, a true disciple, how come he's here for the lecture? This is not an ordinary purple robe, look at the collar, there are 9 gold lines, he is not an ordinary true disciple but a peak chief disciple. What? The people here looked at Qi Yuan with eyes full of awe and puzzlement. After all, this kind of lecture usually only had outer disciples and servant disciples attending, rarely inner disciples, let alone true disciples. In the Divine Light sect, disciples were divided into true disciples, formal disciples, and servant disciples. Servant disciples had the lowest status, they could cultivate but had to do chores. Formal disciples were divided into inner and outer disciples, both formally joining a peak. When an inner disciple formally took a master from among the elders, they would become a true disciple. There were also differences among true disciples, mainly reflected in the strength of their master. A peak chief disciple was truly a disciple among disciples, not even ordinary elders dared to offend them. Such a chief disciple was personally taught by the peak master, why would they come to such a lecture? He is the chief disciple of the 7 colors peak, Qi Yuan. It's really him, as expected of the chief disciple, he's so handsome. These servant disciples and formal disciples, upon learning Qi Yuan's identity, had various expressions, some with envy, awe, and also jealousy. Why did he come here? It's said that he angered the peak master of the 7 colors peak, so much that the peak master closed the hall doors in anger. By the way, I only told you this, don't spread it around. Daring to offend the peak master, he's really bold. I heard that other true disciples call Qi Yuan a rebel who defies and deceives his master. The crowd discussed animatedly, and there were quite a few good-looking female disciples who cast flirtatious glances at Qi Yuan. However, given Qi Yuan's behavior of defying his master, they didn't dare to be too overt, to avoid getting into trouble. Qi Yuan sat in his seat, feeling a bit emotional. Indeed, handsome men are the focus no matter where they go. About half a stick of incense later, the lecturer finally arrived. It was an old man who seemed to have one foot in the grave. He saw Qi Yuan, was slightly stunned, then a look of pride flashed in his eyes. He thought, it must be because his lectures were so good that even a chief disciple came to listen. He decided that this time, he would perform at 200% capacity, make the lecture profound and grand, and definitely impress Qi Yuan. In other words, he intended to be pretentious. My name is Shu Renshin. Today, I will teach you about the key points of foundation establishment. After Shu Renshin spoke, the disciples below became serious. Although their cultivation was still far from foundation establishment, it was important to learn about it in advance. Above Qi refining is foundation establishment. Becoming a foundation establishment cultivator qualifies one to be a steward in our divine light sect, enjoying offerings. However, foundation establishment is extremely difficult, blocking many seekers of the Tao. Shu Renshin spoke with a nostalgic look in his eyes. Back then, he almost couldn't achieve foundation establishment. Foundation establishment also varies in quality. You should know that foundation establishment requires foundation establishment materials, using them as the foundation to build one's foundation. The higher the grade of the foundation establishment material, the better the effect of foundation establishment. Shu Renshin spoke eloquently. Immediately, a disciple below chimed in, I know, foundation establishment materials are divided into superior, medium, and inferior grades, with superior being the best and inferior the worst. Shu Renshin nodded in satisfaction. The higher the grade of the foundation establishment material, the better the foundation establishment effect. You know the grades of foundation establishment materials, but probably few of you know that foundation establishment itself also has grades. Upon hearing this, many people in the audience focused even more. This was indeed something they didn't know. Shu Renshin glanced at Qi Yuan's seat. Seeing Qi Yuan also listening attentively, he felt very proud. Foundation establishment is divided into mortal foundation, spirit foundation, earth vein foundation, and immortal foundation. Generally, inferior foundation establishment materials result in mortal foundation. I am a mortal foundation cultivator, having wasted my life, with no hope of forming a Yuan Dan, unfortunately. Medium foundation establishment materials result in spirit foundation, though earth vein foundation is also possible. Superior foundation establishment materials correspond to earth vein foundation. It's said that above superior foundation establishment materials, there are even higher grade materials that can result in immortal foundation. Immortal foundation signifies the potential to become a true immortal. Everyone in the audience breathed rapidly. Who doesn't want to become a true immortal? Of course, each level of foundation establishment also has sub-levels. Qi Yuan frowned and suddenly asked, May I ask, teacher, is immortal foundation the best foundation establishment? Hearing the chief disciple of 7 Colors Peak asking him a question, Shu Renshin's beard almost lifted in pride. No, above Immortal Foundation, there is the legendary Heavenly Tao Foundation, which is the strongest foundation establishment. Then, teacher, what is Heavenly Tao Foundation? Qi Yuan asked earnestly. Shu Renshin was stunned by this. He, a mere foundation establishment cultivator, knew nothing about Heavenly Tao Foundation. But he still braced himself and said, the so-called Heavenly Tao Foundation is profound and mysterious. I only have a few guesses, listen to them but don't take them seriously. After saying this, Shu Renshin breathed a sigh of relief. He started to make things up. Anyway, he had already said it was just his guess, so it shouldn't be taken seriously. Moreover, this kind of thing, the disciples here would never use in their lifetime. He could make things up, and no one would expose him. Hearing this, Qi Yuan immediately focused all his attention. He wanted to know, what exactly was Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment? Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Shu Renshin cleared his throat. What do you think is the most precious foundation establishment material in the world? He looked at the disciples below, appearing quite like an enlightened master. Is it the 9 heavens divine thunder fruit? A female disciple asked tentatively. Shu Renshin responded, the 9 heavens divine thunder fruit, rumored to only be born in the 9 heavens thunder domain, is an extraordinary foundation establishment material above the top grade, considered extremely rare, but still not the most precious. Star tier, Xuanwang primal qi, supreme bone. Many disciples present mentioned extremely precious foundation establishment materials. These foundation establishment materials were legendary treasures. Shu Renshin turned to Qi Yuan, who was deep in thought, and asked, Qi Yuan, what do you think it is? Qi Yuan replied, Heavenly Tao Foundation Establishment. Since it's Heavenly Tao, could it be related to the Heavenly Tao? Shu Renshin praised, you're correct. The material for the Heavenly Tao Foundation Establishment should be. At that moment, Qi Yuan suddenly felt enlightened, as if he had received a divine revelation. He felt his mind open up. He was about to understand. His expression became excited and slightly crazy. I understand now. Heavenly Tao Foundation Establishment, so that's how it is. Qi Yuan respectfully bowed to Shu Renshin and then took his leave. Epiphany is fleeting, he had to record it immediately. Seeing this, Shu Renshin smiled. He continued to explain to the other disciples of the Divine Radiance sect, there is a kind of miraculous substance in the world called Heavenly Vein Qi, which is said to be a wisp of Qi shed from the Heavenly Tao. Obtaining it can forge a Heavenly Tao foundation. These were things Shu Renshin had read in ancient books. Heavenly Vein Qi is the most precious foundation establishment material. On 7-colored peak, Qi Yuan sat in a daze, his mind unusually active. Heavenly Tao Foundation Establishment. So the so-called Heavenly Tao Foundation Establishment means using the Heavenly Tao as the foundation establishment material. Qi Yuan had an epiphany. If his goal wasn't too grand, the Heavenly Tao of this world might directly bless him, crowning him with flowers. The Heavenly Tao liked him too much, giving him 3 flowers and even throwing in 2 extra. Qi Yuan looked up at the sky with a puzzled expression, but, how do I refine the Heavenly Tao into my foundation establishment material? I wonder what the Heavenly Tao tastes like, if it's edible. Unfortunately, no one responded to him. Speaking of the Heavenly Tao, I seem to have obtained a fragment of the Heavenly Tao in the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land. Can this be used as a foundation establishment material? Qi Yuan's spirits lifted, realizing something extraordinary. That gaming jade slip wasn't just a game to him. But he was lazy, too lazy to think deeply. It's been a while since I played the game, let's start. With this thought, Qi Yuan re-entered the game. As usual, he found himself buried in the ground. Opening the chat interface, he saw a message from Jin Li. He smiled, didn't I tell you? Now the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land is in my shape, you can take anything you want. He felt generous. The most valuable items in the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land were already taken by him. As for those so-called spiritual herbs, to him, they were just snacks. Bad-tasting snacks were not worth it. Moreover, those herbs were less effective than killing a monster for him. He replied again, those herbs are of average value, the most valuable things there are the fierce beasts. Killing one can give you a lot of experience and level up quickly. But after sending the message, Qi Yuan regretted it. Jin Li must be at a low level, unable to beat those monsters. If you have time, come to the Garment Forbidden Land. I'll help you farm monsters. I have to say, there are a lot of monsters here. After sending the message, Qi Yuan left the pit. He was now at level 82. But in the Garment Forbidden Land, he still needed to be careful. The small monsters in the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land fought individually, but the ones in the Garment Forbidden Land did not. Looks like I need to grind the game again. Qi Yuan murmured. The cultivation in the game would subtly feed back to his real body. So, he kept leveling up in the game. Also, after completing a dungeon, he could get rewards. The fragment of the Heavenly Tao was what he most hoped to obtain now. That was his foundation establishment material. With this thought, he began diligently farming monsters. The Garment Forbidden Land's garment demons mostly appear together, I need to find solitary ones to deal with. Qi Yuan pondered. The garment demons teamed up, and if surrounded, he would also die. Once, in the Xuanyuan Forbidden Land, Qi Yuan was injured, causing his game character to be in a bad state for several days, which also affected his real body slightly. So, he had to be cautious. Stealth. Qi Yuan entered stealth mode. At level 82, his combat power increased significantly, and he gained many game skills. Of course, in the cultivation world, these could be called divine abilities. He mainly gained 2 primary skills and 8 minor skills. For every 30 levels, he gained 1 primary skill. For every 10 levels, he gained 1 minor skill. Qi Yuan's 2 primary skills were sky-splitting sword technique and overbearing strength. Stealth was a minor skill that could hide his form and move quickly. In the Garment Forbidden Land, Qi Yuan passed through many forests and saw many strange garment demons. Especially in a certain forest, he felt as if he had entered not just a forbidden land. In the dense forest, there were many trees. Every tree was hung with colorful bras and panties. With the wind, the panties fluttered. The scene was extremely comical. Qi Yuan even saw many pairs of underpants. If some pervert came here, they would surely exclaim with delight. But if that pervert touched these panties, the outcome would be tragic. Each pair of panties had a level of no less than 30. Qi Yuan quickly left the area. After about half an hour, Qi Yuan finally stopped. Finally found a place with few garments. He looked at the dozen or so garment demons washing clothes by the water ahead. These garment demons were between levels 30 and 50. They were washing clothes. Qi Yuan shouted loudly. Monsters, face my sword. The golden sword instantly enlarged, becoming several feet long. The huge sword swept out, stirring up a gale, overturning the river water. The sword fell on the garment demons, smashing them into pieces. Experience plus 100. Experience plus 300. ... Experience plus 200. At level 82, Qi Yuan could easily kill these low-level garment demons. Not bad. Qi Yuan patted his hands, time to find other garment demons. Before attacking, he had used a minor skill to cover up the commotion, so it wouldn't attract other garment demons. However, to Qi Yuan's surprise, just as he left, hundreds of garment demons came rushing. At the same time, he sensed that garment demons from all directions were also heading his way. He was stunned. How did I get exposed? He quickly started running. If surrounded, the outcome would be miserable. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. An hour later, Qi Yuan was panting heavily. After confirming that no one was behind him, he lay down in a valley. This isn't playing a game, this is escaping for my life. After killing just a dozen or so garment demons in a remote area, hundreds and thousands of garment demons surrounded him. He kept running, using all his strength to finally escape. Qi Yuan sat up, a look of confusion on his face. How did the other garment demons discover me? He was very puzzled. Could it be that all the garment demons share the same perception? Qi Yuan thought of the Zerg he had seen in previous anime. In some anime, the Zerg were controlled by a mother body, using the same system. If that's the case, then it's troublesome. In this case, his strategy of dividing and conquering would fail. He was very distressed. This game map was harder to grind than he had imagined. Maybe I should ask Jin Li for help. She might have some game strategies. Qi Yuan thought, then sent a message. The garment demons in the Garment Forbidden Land are too many. Today, I saw a forest full of bras and panties. The scene was so shocking that if I took a picture and posted it online, it would definitely go viral. I encountered some problems while hunting garment demons today. Qi Yuan described the problems he encountered and sent it out. Do you have any strategies over there? Please send them to me. I'd be very grateful. ... Prime Minister, Her Majesty has returned to the palace, said a man in a long robe respectfully. The people we sent are gone. Sima Ting was playing chess. Hearing this, he laughed and ignored the robed man, instead saying to the civil official playing chess with him, Bo Chong, are you sure placing it here will take one of my pieces? My pieces are connected, with true eyes everywhere. The overall situation is settled, you are already in a deadlock. The civil official, hearing this, joked flatteringly, your chess skills far surpass mine. The situation is dire, and I'll take any piece I can. Sima Ting laughed heartily. The current Empress Jin Li was like a black piece on the chessboard, with no way out. A cornered beast will fight, but death is only a matter of time. The civil official then said opportunistically, in 6 days, when old Lady Qin is defeated, we will all attack. By then, the southern Qian will be the prime minister's domain. Hearing this, the powerful minister Sima Ting's eyes filled with more laughter. Although the southern Qian kingdom was already his, it could not compare to being rightfully his. Jin Li was in a good mood. She had just seen Aunt Qin and gave her the imperial medicine, the 9-flower Kailan. With this imperial medicine, Aunt Qin's injuries would no longer be a problem. Moreover, Aunt Qin might even step into the realm of an emperor. For Jin Li, this was undoubtedly exciting news. In a world where strength is revered, having an additional emperor-level expert gave her more confidence against Sima Ting. And all of this was brought to her by Qi Yuan. Thinking of Qi Yuan, her emotions were complex. At this moment, the Linglong Yushi flashed again. She took out the Linglong Yushi, her joy increasing. She looked at the content inside, reading it more carefully than official documents, word by word. When she saw that Qi Yuan encountered danger in the Garment Forbidden Land, her heart skipped a beat. When she saw the trees in the Garment Forbidden Land full of bras and panties, she couldn't help but smile. Information about the Garment Forbidden Land. Seeing that Qi Yuan was seeking her help, she immediately took it to heart. I'll help you find information about the Garment Forbidden Land right away. In the meantime, be careful. Thank you for your concern. Qi Yuan's reply was quick. I'm telling you, the monsters in the Garment Forbidden Land are too peculiar. Qi Yuan spoke endlessly. Jin Li listened attentively. At this moment, she was no longer the empress, and Qi Yuan was not that mysterious and powerful person, they were just old friends who could talk heart to heart. Half an hour later, Jin Li frowned as she looked at the book on the Jade Throne. There are so few records about the Garment Forbidden Land. In front of her was only a thin booklet, with very little information about the Garment Forbidden Land, just a few pages. And these introductions were all commonplace, unable to help Qi Yuan at all. Summon Grand Scholar Dong Shishan of the Wenyuan Pavilion, Jin Li ordered. Dong Shishan, the Grand Scholar of the Wenyuan Pavilion, was one of the most knowledgeable people in the southern Qian kingdom. Moreover, Dong Shishan was on Jin Li's side, she hoped to learn about the Garment Forbidden Land from him. Before long, Grand Scholar Dong Shishan appeared in the Luan Hall. Jin Li directly asked, Scholar Dong, do you know anything about the Garment Forbidden Land, especially about the Garment Demons? Dong Shishan was taken aback by this. The Garment Forbidden Land was one of the 4 forbidden areas and one absolute in the moon-watching continent. It was over 10,000 miles from the capital of the southern Qian kingdom. Why was the empress asking about this? Your Majesty, I do not know, Dong Shishan replied truthfully. The Garment Forbidden Land was too far away, and there was indeed little information about it. Jin Li felt a bit disappointed upon hearing this. Could she not help Qi Yuan? At this moment, Dong Shishan seemed to hesitate, finally saying, Your Majesty. Speak freely. There might be records about the Garment Forbidden Land in the Yu Mansion. The old duke once visited the Garment Forbidden Land in his youth. Dong Shishan knew that the Yu Mansion had detailed books about the Garment Forbidden Land. The reason he hesitated was because the relationship between the old duke and the empress was very bad, even strained. The old duke's daughter was the former noble consort, while the current empress's mother was the previous empress. The noble consort and the empress had a grudge, and the noble consort died unexpectedly in the palace. The old duke blamed the empress for this. Along with that, he also hated the empress. If the empress were to ask for the books, she would definitely be troubled. Jin Li also realized this, but she was still happy to finally find a clue. She waved her sleeve. I will personally visit the old duke. She had few people under her, and sending someone to ask for the books would definitely be recognized by the old duke. It was better for her to go herself. Being troubled was nothing. As long as she found information about the Garment Forbidden Land, it would be worth it. Late at night, Jin Li left the Yu Mansion holding a book. After kneeling for too long, her legs were uncomfortable as she walked, but her face was filled with a smile. Hua Xian, the commander of the Imperial Guards, supported Jin Li, her beautiful eyes filled with anger. The old duke is too much. He knows your legs were injured years ago, yet he deliberately troubled you. You are a noble empress, and he made you kneel before noble consort Zai's spirit for 3 hours. Hua Xian was both angry and helpless. During the previous emperor's reign, imperial power had declined and Sima Ting had taken control. Later, Sima Ting slaughtered the royal family and supported a little girl to the throne. No one in the court respected Empress Jin Li. Seeing the empress kneel for several hours, she felt immense pain. Ordinary people kneeling for 3 hours was a torment. For someone pampered, they would have fainted long ago. Even an ordinary adult would find it unbearable. Kneeling for 3 hours without moving was an extremely painful experience. Although Empress Jin Li had some cultivation, it was not strong, and her legs were injured. Otherwise, she wouldn't have made a spectacle during her coronation. Kneeling for 3 hours was also difficult for her. No matter, at least I got what I wanted. Jin Li tightly held the book, feeling content. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. In the carriage, Jin Li couldn't wait to flip through the book. As the night grew deeper, she continued reading after returning to her palace, searching for the information Qi Yuan needed. Your Majesty, it's already the early hours of the morning. You should rest. If your health suffers, I can't bear the responsibility, a maid in a yellow palace dress reminded her. Without lifting her head, Jin Li replied, There were many records about the Yiguan Forbidden Zone in the Yu Manners collection. Jin Li was looking for the answers Qi Yuan asked for, and also gathering other related information to share with him, to help him out. Finally found it, Jin Li's eyes lit up. All Yiguan demons are connected, sharing a collective consciousness, but at night, this connection significantly weakens. With this information, she quickly took out the Linglong Yushi and relayed it to Qi Yuan. At the same time, she shared the other information she had gathered about the Yiguan Forbidden Zone. After sending these messages, she felt a surge of excitement. However, as she continued reading, a puzzled expression appeared on her face. The ancient texts mention that there are only bridal gown demons in the Yiguan Forbidden Zone. Strange, how does Qi Yuan explain the bellyband demons he mentioned? Could it be that new types of Yiguan demons have emerged in the Forbidden Zone? Jin Li was perplexed. However, she would soon be able to ask the returning guards she sent. Perhaps they had seen Qi Yuan and could explain the situation. She was curious about Qi Yuan's appearance. Putting down the book, a wave of exhaustion hit her. She felt tired, and her long legs and delicate feet were sore. The aftereffects of kneeling for 3 hours hadn't fully dissipated. The sun shone on Qi Yuan, making him feel lazy. Climbing out of a pit, he still had traces of dirt on him. He looked up at the sun, so round, just like a golden elixir. As usual, he opened the chat interface. There were many messages from Jin Li in the chat area. He read through them one by one. As expected, 3 cobblers are better than 1 Zhuge Liang. Asking Jin Li for help really paid off. From Jin Li, he got useful information. So, the Yiguan demons indeed have a collective consciousness, but it weakens significantly at night. This is my chance. But right now, it's broad daylight, so testing it will have to wait until night. Qi Yuan continued to read the other information. Jin Li not only provided the answers he asked for but also marked some dangerous areas and mentioned the distribution of powerful Yiguan demons. She's really considerate, no, more like meticulous and thoughtful, Qi Yuan thought, realizing something and quickly correcting himself. After all, in his previous life, the word considerate had taken on a somewhat derogatory connotation. Waiting until nightfall to hunt demons is so boring. Feeling bored, Qi Yuan sent a bunch of messages to Jin Li. Although Jin Li might not be online to reply immediately, it didn't matter. He continued talking to himself. The scenery here is really beautiful, but the Yiguan demons are quite creepy, more terrifying than ghosts in horror movies. If I weren't level 82, I might actually be scared. It's a pity I can't take pictures, otherwise, I could show you the scenery here. It might scare you. Thinking of this, Qi Yuan suddenly asked, Hey, what do you look like? If pictures could be taken, he might be able to see what his online friend looked like. Unfortunately, in this game, you couldn't send pictures or have video calls. Qi Yuan initially thought Jin Li might reply later, but to his surprise, she responded quickly after he sent the message. I look okay. On the other side, Jin Li's emotions were more tumultuous than when she had met the powerful Prime Minister Sima Ting. I look okay too. How about we meet up someday? Qi Yuan had a good impression of Jin Li. When he was seriously ill, he lived alone, and Jin Li was his only chat companion. Jin Li's personality and temper suited Qi Yuan well. Simply put, they got along well, and he didn't see any traits in her that he disliked. Sitting on a sandalwood chair, surrounded by a faint fragrance, Jin Li looked at the words on the Linglong Yushi for a long time before seriously replying, All right. Qi Yuan smiled when he saw this. By the way, is your map different from mine? The map I have now only includes the 4 forbidden zones and 2 unique locations. I can only stay here and can't leave. Map, 4 forbidden zones and 2 unique locations. Isn't it just 1 unique location? By the way, you should be following the game's storyline, right? What's your role here, and what difficulties are you facing? Tell me, maybe I can help. Jin Li, in the hall, felt a bit dizzy. She knew Qi Yuan spoke in a strange and mysterious way. He asked about difficulties. Role, was he asking about her real-life identity? Initially, she hadn't fully revealed her identity to Qi Yuan, considering her unique position as the Empress of Nanqian Kingdom. Now, I am the Empress of Nanqian Kingdom. Jin Li decided not to hide her identity any longer. Wow, your character is so powerful, being an empress. No way, we definitely have to meet. I've never even met a mayor, and an empress is really rare. Jin Li couldn't help but smile bitterly. What is your current task? Qi Yuan continued to ask. Task. Jin Li was getting used to Qi Yuan's peculiar way of speaking and roughly understood his meaning. As the Empress of Nanqian, I have to deal with the Prime Minister Sima Ting who covets the throne, the Northern Khanate's invasions, and occasional beast attacks. So, your main task now is to get rid of Sima Ting, secure the throne, and then deal with the other enemies. Jin Li was a bit shocked by Qi Yuan's casual tone. She had considered these major issues, but accomplishing them seemed impossible. Maintaining peace was already a challenge. Even if Qi Yuan was an unparalleled emperor, mastering the way to enter the Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone and being able to traverse the Yiguan Forbidden Zone, he couldn't achieve what he mentioned. Sigh, I wonder how high the level of the characters you encounter is and whether they can be killed with a sword, Qi Yuan said, then asked, have you read The Art of Dragon Slaying, by the Great Man? It's a very great book. The Great Man is very powerful. If you can grasp a few insights from his work, this situation will be a piece of cake. I haven't read it. The Art of Dragon Slaying. It must be very precious, right? Jin Li guessed it must be something very valuable. Hearing Qi Yuan say that understanding the Art of Dragon Slaying could easily resolve her issues, she thought it must be worth a fortune. It's not expensive, maybe a few hundred coins. You can buy it for about 100 pounds of grain. Unfortunately, I haven't read it myself, otherwise, I could teach you and revolutionize the game world. To avoid sounding too serious, he used revolutionize instead. Jin Li was stunned. Such a valuable book was worth only 100 pounds of grain. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. I don't understand military tactics or play politics. In this situation, I think we should just create chaos and upheaval, Qi Yuan expressed his peculiar opinion. I'll see if I can recruit some underlings in the Yiguan Forbidden Zone to help you, he said after chatting with Jin Li for a while before logging out of the game. The Yiguan demons were difficult to deal with during the day. He had to wait until night to confront them. Spending too much time in the game took a toll on his mental energy, so Qi Yuan didn't stay in the game world for too long. I need to change my routine, Qi Yuan thought. For the time being, I should play the game at night and rest during the day. I need to speed up my progress and clear the game. Maybe then I can collect all the fragments of the Heavenly Tao. According to the Heavenly Tao Foundation theory, the Heavenly Tao is the best spiritual material for foundation building. If I build my foundation with the Heavenly Tao, I'll be the top disciple among the 5 peaks. With these thoughts, Qi Yuan said, it's still early, I should go walk my blade. Recently, I need to walk it more frequently. It feels like it's about to develop a mind of its own. Will it develop intelligence in about a month? Why so early? Could it be related to my insight into the Heavenly Tao Foundation? As Qi Yuan walked with his ordinary iron kitchen knife, he pondered, I wonder if, once it has developed intelligence, I can use it to kill a Yuan Dan master. He looked forward to it. He had modified the spirit refining technique for a long time. The blade he was cultivating would undoubtedly be extraordinary. In the short term, he couldn't break through to the foundation establishment stage, so his power couldn't change significantly. But the blade could give him extraordinary strength. Qi Yuan wandered leisurely on the road of the Shenguang sect. At this time, a group of disciples in black tight-fitting outfits hurried past. These disciples were from the Shenguang sect's Jinguang Hall. Jinguang Hall was the law enforcement hall of the Shenguang sect, dealing with internal and external matters. These disciples were rushing outside the mountain gate, clearly because something urgent had happened. However, when they saw Qi Yuan, the disciples from Jinguang Hall stopped. Greetings, senior brother. Qi Yuan looked at the law enforcement disciples of Jingguang Hall, especially the leader, and nodded. No need for formalities, you all hurry along. Thank you, senior brother, replied the leader, Zheng Zhonghe, and then the group hurriedly left. Qi Yuan was quite familiar with Zheng Zhonghe. Due to his own unusual behavior, he had been taken to Jingguang Hall several times and had become acquainted with Zheng Zhonghe. Watching Zheng Zhonghe's back, a stream of words appeared in Qi Yuan's mind. Open black lens bracket. This is a righteous cultivator who, at this moment, only wants to kill. Close black lens bracket. I wonder what's happening at the foot of the mountain. Qi Yuan sat on a stone, too lazy to walk, letting his blade bask in the sun. Meanwhile, the surrounding disciples of the Shenguang sect were also discussing the urgent departure of the Jingguang Hall law enforcement disciples. Why did so many disciples from Jingguang Hall go out? What's happening? You don't know. Recently, there have been several murders in our Shenguang sect's territory. Murders. Last night, Xu Dashanren's son from Rong City got married. What should have been a joyous event turned tragic. At dawn, people found Xu Dashanren's entire family of 18 brutally killed. The newlywed bride was defiled before being murdered. It's just too awful. This is the work of a villain. This has happened 3 times near Rong City. All involved young brides being defiled on their wedding night, followed by the extermination of their families. Who has the audacity to commit such atrocities under the Shenguang sect's jurisdiction? Some were indignant, some heartbroken, and some indifferent. Who else could it be? It's naturally those demons from the Black Mountain sect. Hearing the name Black Mountain sect, everyone present showed a slight change in expression. The Shang Kingdom had 3 major sects, and the Shenguang sect was one of them. The 3 major sects were Shenguang sect, Xuanfu Mountain, and Moyu sect. These were the most powerful sects in the Shang Kingdom. However, the most notorious sect, not to be trifled with, was the Black Mountain sect, which ranked below the 3 major sects. The Black Mountain sect only had a few Yuan Dan masters. In terms of strength, it was not as formidable as the 3 major sects. But the Black Mountain sect's leader had an adopted father known as the Black Chicken Old Demon. This old demon was a powerful nascent soul mid-stage demonic cultivator and a rogue cultivator, known for being vengeful and difficult to deal with. The Black Mountain sect disciples, leveraging the Black Chicken Old Demon's influence, became increasingly arrogant and unscrupulous, committing numerous atrocities. The Black Mountain sect's reputation was thoroughly tainted in the Shang Kingdom. Unfortunately, the Black Chicken Old Demon was too powerful and troublesome. If a sect couldn't guarantee his immediate elimination, they feared his retaliation. Thus, the Black Mountain sect remained rampant. The disciples of the Shenguang sect discussed this matter, feeling frustrated. What could they do about the Black Mountain sect's disciples' crimes? They could only secretly condemn them. The law enforcement disciples of Jingguang Hall heading to Rong City would likely return empty-handed. Beside them, Qi Yuan mumbled, an otherworldly version of Chong Wei. No, worse than Chong Wei. As night fell, Qi Yuan killed a chicken and made chicken soup to drink. Spending too much time in the game left him feeling weak, so he needed to replenish his energy. Of course, he also shared the chicken soup with Zhang Lingsu. After all, the last time Zhang Lingsu gave him a jade slip with a cultivation technique, it was very helpful. Delicious, Zhang Lingsu said after drinking a full bowl of chicken soup, with a drop of it still hanging on her lips. Senior brother, this black chicken soup you made is excellent. If you ever stop cultivating immortality, becoming a chef and opening a restaurant wouldn't be a bad idea. Then you have to endorse it for me, Qi Yuan said, glancing at Zhang Lingsu. Although she was young, her appearance and temperament were outstanding, far surpassing the so-called 98 flowers and 00 flowers of his previous life. Endorse. Zhang Lingsu didn't understand, but the topic didn't continue, as Qi Yuan had to start his game grind. At night, Qi Yuan entered the game. The Yiguan Forbidden Zone was silent. Suddenly, a pale arm reached out from the soil. Qi Yuan was online. He wielded a large sword and continued to sneak around. Before long, he arrived at a forest. Clothes hung from the trees, and if one didn't look closely, they might think it was a bunch of corpses. Qi Yuan chose a spot with fewer Yiguan demons. He raised his large sword and stayed vigilant, watching his surroundings. Indeed, at night, their senses are significantly dulled, and their connection weakens. How much will it weaken? During the day, if he appeared so blatantly with his large sword, the Yiguan demons would have noticed him long ago. But now, they hadn't. This confirmed that their senses were indeed dulled at night. Qi Yuan approached and stabbed a bellyband with his large sword. The bellyband shattered instantly. He looked around, the other Yiguan demons hanging on the trees didn't react. Qi Yuan smiled. Does this mean I can quietly kill all the Yiguan demons in one night? With this thought, he moved on to the next Yiguan demon and repeated the process. Experience plus 200. He wielded the large sword, killing with ease. However, after killing the 30th Yiguan demon, the remaining demons on the trees finally reacted, waking up one after another. But unlike the organized response during the day, they seemed chaotic and disoriented at night. Hunting time, Qi Yuan thought, seeing this as his chance. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Qi Yuan wielded his giant sword, moving among the bellybands, among the Yiguan demons. Small skills activated continuously. Powerful sword skull splitter. Shaoshang sword rain. Blood escape. Experience plus 300. Experience plus 200. Experience plus 400. Qi Yuan killed with great satisfaction, finally finding the feeling of playing a game. The monsters before him were all experience packs. He slaughtered all around in the game. Sword to pierce the big shorts. Chopping off the big clothes. Sword to stab the straps. Qi Yuan killed with great joy. And the number of Yiguan demons around him increased. Trees were broken, and Yiguan demons were shattered. Within a radius of dozens of meters, it was Qi Yuan's personal battlefield. He was like a killing god. Once he approached a Yiguan demon, it became his experience baby. Because it was nighttime, the Yiguan demons couldn't quickly gather, fighting individually. For Qi Yuan, this was undoubtedly like a wolf entering a flock of sheep. The reason he could kill so freely in the Xuanyuan Forbidden Zone was that the monsters there were not united. At this moment, all the Yiguan demons in the Yiguan Forbidden Zone were slowly awakening. As Qi Yuan went on a killing spree, some newly awakened Yiguan demons were still dazed. So, even demons can have stampedes. Qi Yuan saw the stampede in the distance and rushed over. The stampede of Yiguan demons was different. It was due to their sudden awakening, triggering emergency responses, and attacking randomly. This led to many weaker Yiguan demons being caught in the chaos. Kill. Qi Yuan transformed into a god of grinding, slaughtering all around in the game. However, after just a few hours, Qi Yuan decided to flee. No, I need to run. Although the Yiguan demons' senses were dulled at night, over time, they slowly formed a military formation, attacking Qi Yuan. At this point, it was time to run. As before, Qi Yuan dug a hole and buried himself. Not bad, I've reached level 84, my strength has increased significantly. After grinding all night, he gained 1.5 levels of experience, leveling up twice. I aim to take over the entire Yiguan Forbidden Zone within half a month. Qi Yuan thought that if he kept this up every night, in half a month, he would have worn down the Yiguan demons significantly. By then, he might even reach level 90. At that point, he could awaken another major skill. Then, his power in the game world would increase again, speeding up his clearing of other forbidden zones and even desperate situations, allowing him to gather the spiritual materials for the Heavenly Tao Foundation. Thinking of this, Qi Yuan suddenly felt dejected. Cultivating immortality is too hard. Just to build a Heavenly Tao Foundation, I have to clear an entire world. How strong must those legendary geniuses who built the Heavenly Tao Foundation be? I should avoid them if I encounter them in the future. Qi Yuan lay in the pit, changed to a comfortable position, and as usual, sent a message to Jin Li. He recounted his night raid and finally said goodnight before logging off. Because staying in the game too long took a toll on his mental state. He had tried it before. If he stayed in the game for more than half a day, the situation would become severe. How severe? It was like a normal person having a hypoglycemic attack and blacking out. So, he hardly ever stayed in the game for 12 hours or more. Just before logging off, he sighed in frustration, striking hard in the game, timid in reality. Indeed, he could slaughter monsters in the game, but in reality, he was timid and couldn't even kill a Yuan Dan. He could only wait for his knife to develop intelligence to have a chance to kill a Yuan Dan master. Of course, it was only a chance, not a guarantee. The next day, when Qi Yuan woke up, he seemed to hear the sound of thousands of ducks quacking. He opened his eyes, got dressed, and washed up. He walked out of the courtyard, took a deep breath of the morning air, and looked at the 3 girls in front of him. What are you talking about so early in the morning? Among the three girls, one was his junior sister, Zhang Lingsu. Another one he had seen before was a girl with top grades who entered Shenguang sect this year. When he was selecting junior sisters, he had excluded this girl. This girl seemed innocent on the surface, but there was always a hint of allure in her eyes. Qi Yuan remembered that his eyes had shown this girl had a special constitution and was favored by the black chicken old demon. The last girl was ordinary, with the most notable feature being her numerous freckles. Generally speaking, cultivators rarely had freckles on their faces. Greetings, senior brother. The three girls bowed. The status of the chief disciple was prestigious. Even yesterday, when Zheng Zhonghe led a team out and encountered Qi Yuan, he stopped to salute before leaving. Seeing Qi Yuan still not fully awake, Zhang Lingsu couldn't help but say, "Senior brother, it's already noon. How is it early?" Qi Yuan looked up at the sun in the sky. It was big and round. He looked at the three girls again. "Hey, I've been thinking about forming a golden core recently, everything looks big and round. What are you discussing so passionately?" Qi Yuan asked casually. "Isn't it about the Black Mountain sect?" The seemingly innocent girl said, her face filled with anger. Qi Yuan suddenly remembered that Zheng Zhonghe had led Jin Guang Hall to Rong City yesterday, which seemed related to the Black Mountain sect. What happened? A few days ago, a true disciple of the Black Mountain sect, named Chu Tianshang, committed heinous acts in Rong City, defiling several newlywed women and exterminating their entire families. It's truly despicable. Brother Zheng Zhonghe led Jin Guang Hall to capture Chu Tianshang in Rong City. The innocent girl became increasingly agitated, her words almost incoherent. Zhang Lingsu said, "Xiao Ran, don't get excited. Let me explain. Chu Tianshang was captured by Jin Guang Hall and was extremely arrogant. Brother Zheng Zhonghe wanted to take Chu Tianshang back to the sect for punishment, but halfway there, an elder from the Black Mountain sect appeared, took Chu Tianshang away, and injured Brother Zheng Zhonghe. All three girls were furious, with the freckled girl clenching her fists, wishing to kill Chu Tianshang." Zhang Ran said, "The Black Mountain sect is too rampant." The freckled girl couldn't help but speak up. If it weren't for the black chicken old demon, would the Black Mountain sect dare to be so arrogant? Hearing the name Black Chicken Old Demon, Zhang Ran's face turned solemn. Qi Yuan said, "I've watched many TV shows, villains never have a good ending." The three girls were confused, not knowing what TV shows were. But they understood the second half of the sentence. They fell silent. Will bad people really not have good endings? Zhang Lingsu remembered that when a demonic cultivator who had slaughtered an entire country came to her clan, her father and grandfather treated him with great respect. This is ultimately a world where strength is respected. Bad people might live even better than good people. Senior brother is right. Good deeds are rewarded, and evil deeds are punished. It's just that the time hasn't come yet. Zhang Lingsu agreed. Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1. Qi Yuan put the matter of the Black Mountain sect behind him. He strolled with his knife. Along the way, he heard many whispers, all condemning the Black Mountain sect. The Black Mountain sect is truly detestable. They even injured senior brother Zheng, showing no respect for our Shenguang sect. Because their sect leader has a good adoptive father. What's even more hateful is that the Black Mountain sect plans to participate in the foundation building conference in half a month. What? The Black Mountain sect is coming too. I heard that the chief disciples of several peaks are discussing yesterday's events, but why is he still walking his knife? Quiet down. Hasn't he yet to build his foundation? What's the use of discussing? He's probably no match for Chu Tianshang. Don't say that. It's not that senior brother doesn't want to build his foundation. He surely doesn't want to remain at the peak of qi refining. Qi Yuan listened to this, seemingly without any reaction. Wang Yu continent. Empress Jin Li showed a hint of joy on her face. Aunt Qin, are your injuries healed? Aunt Qin nodded. Thanks to your majesty's imperial medicine, my injuries have finally healed, and my strength has further increased. That's good. The stone in Jin Li's heart was finally laid to rest. After the loss of her father and mother, it was Aunt Qin who watched her grow up. She relied heavily on Aunt Qin. However, thinking of something, she asked, Aunt Qin, do you have confidence in the battle with the Grand Master of Nanfeng Kingdom in 6 days? The duel in 6 days concerned the life and death of Jin Li and her followers. If they failed, Sima Ting would certainly seize the opportunity to strike. By then, Jin Li would have no ability to resist. Forcible resistance would only result in the premature death of those who followed her. Upon hearing this, Aunt Chin's face clouded with worry. Yesterday, the Crown Prince of Nanfeng Kingdom visited Sima Ting. Sima Ting gave him a grand pill called the Mixed Element Blood-Locking Pill. What? Jin Li's teeth gnawed her gums. Sima Ting's intentions are known to all. The Grand Master of Nanfeng Kingdom was a late-stage king-level expert. His cultivation technique was the Dragon Elephant Purgatory technique. The stronger his blood and energy, the more powerful he became. At the highest level, he would have the strength of 100 dragons and elephants. Before, Aunt Chin, who had taken the 9-flower Kiluo, was slightly stronger than the Grand Master of Nanfeng Kingdom. But now, with the supreme blood and energy pill given by Sima Ting, the Grand Master of Nanfeng Kingdom would be like a tiger with wings, his strength greatly increasing. From the late stage of the king level to the peak, it was only a matter of time, and he might even glimpse the emperor level. Now, Aunt Chin was no match for the Grand Master of Nanfeng Kingdom. All this was caused by Sima Ting, the Chancellor of Nanqian Kingdom. Isn't Sima Ting afraid of the public outcry? Beside them, Hua Xian, the commander of the Imperial Guards, was also extremely angry. Sima Ting was becoming increasingly blatant. Jin Li frowned and took out the remaining imperial medicine. Aunt Chin, can taking these imperial medicines enhance your strength? Seeing the imperial medicine, Aunt Chin's eyes flashed with a shocked expression. She didn't know where the Empress got so many precious imperial medicines. If I take these imperial medicines, I am confident I can break through to the emperor level within 3 years. But, there isn't enough time. Aunt Chin's words were filled with regret. Jin Li's brows were tightly furrowed, pondering a way to break the impasse. Hiring an emperor-level expert with imperial medicines. Ruled out. Looking for some tiger wolf medicines to quickly boost strength. Not feasible. Jin Li couldn't think of a good method for a while. She couldn't help but recall Qi Yuan's suggestion to recruit some small demons from the Yiguan Forbidden Zone to help her. This thought flashed by quickly. Subduing Yiguan demons wasn't that easy. It was just talk. She didn't know where to find a quick way to enhance her cultivation. Jin Li couldn't think of anything. She looked at Aunt Chin. Aunt Chin, keep your recovery a secret for now. Don't let Sima Ting know. I will think of a way to enhance your strength. As you command. Greetings, sect leader. In the empty main hall, Qi Yuan stood in the center, showing respect. Kumu Zhenjin glanced at Qi Yuan, his expression carrying a hint of mockery. You still acknowledge me as the sect leader. A few months ago, this chief disciple of Qi's Peak suddenly exposed that the sect leader of Shenguang sect, which was him, was actually a spy from the Demon Desire sect. At that time, his heart was greatly shocked, thinking he had been exposed, and that the head of Qi's Peak, along with the other peak leaders, wanted to deal with him. Unexpectedly, it was a false alarm, completely Qi Yuan's nonsense. He indeed had deep connections with the Demon Desire sect, having been personally sent to Shenguang sect by an elder of the Demon Desire sect. From a menial disciple, to an outer disciple, to a true disciple. Day by day, he lived in fear. He often contacted that elder. Every time, the elder would say, wait a little longer. Day after day, year after year, he cautiously went from a spy to the sect leader of Shenguang sect. When he met the elder again, Kumu Zhenjin changed his face directly. As a person of the demonic path, you dare to sow discord between me and Shenguang sect. That elder of the Demon Desire sect was already on the verge of death, and upon hearing this, he passed away directly. Qi Yuan looked at Kumu Zhenjin, lazily saying, you haven't done anything against Shenguang sect. Why shouldn't I call you sect leader? Kumu Zhenjin looked at Qi Yuan, his emotions extremely complex. How did this chief disciple of Qi's Peak, who talked nonsense, know he was a spy of the Demon Desire sect? Or was it completely made up? Qi Yuan, I have a task for you. Kumu Zhenjin returned to the main matter. Qi Yuan's attitude also became serious. In half a month, there will be the foundation building conference. Mentioning this, Kumu Zhenjin's eyes flashed with sharpness. This foundation building conference is hosted by our Shenguang sect. At that time, Dashang Nation, Shu Floating Mountain, the Demon Desire sect, and other sects will send disciples to participate, competing for the first-grade foundation building spirit item, the yellow flower fruit. A first-grade foundation building spirit item is the best among the top 3 grades of foundation building spirit items. In Dashang Nation, it is extremely rare. It is said that among the elusive experts of Dashang Nation, only a handful have used top 3 grade foundation building spirit items. And not even first-grade ones. This shows the rarity of first-grade foundation building spirit items. Hearing this, Qi Yuan was stunned. Why don't the senior brothers and sisters wait for this yellow flower fruit? We didn't expect that this time, only a few foundation building spirit items would form in the secret realm, including this yellow flower fruit. Kumu Zhenjin sighed. If he had known in advance that a first-grade foundation building spirit item would form, he would never have let the chief disciples of the peaks build their foundations early. Now, among the chief disciples of the peaks, only Qi Yuan hadn't built his foundation. Kumu Zhenjin thought this might be a coincidence. But it could also be a deliberate arrangement by the head of Qi's peak. She purposely left the top-grade foundation building spirit item for her disciple. So, this time, it's up to you to lead our Shen Guang sect and participate in the foundation building conference. Qi Yuan, I hope you can show the might of our sect and secure the yellow flower fruit. Hearing this, Qi Yuan was quite helpless. Can I not participate? No, the sect leader of Shen Guang sect firmly refused. Considering Qi Yuan's character, he added, you only need to go on last once. It won't take more than an hour. Seeing this, Qi Yuan finally agreed. All right. Sect leader, I'll take my leave now. Qi Yuan was about to leave. Seeing Qi Yuan like this, the sect leader of Shen Guang sect couldn't help but smile wryly. He didn't know if placing hope on Qi Yuan was reliable. If the yellow flower fruit was taken by another sect and produced another strong figure like the black chicken old demon, it would be troublesome. Just as he was lost in thought, Qi Yuan suddenly stopped. Sect leader, is the Empress of Dasheng beautiful? Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. Remove ads from $1.